and welcome everyone to track 2 of ENDORSE 2021 on day 3. This is on procurement and interoperability this day, and we're talking solutions, and we'll be talking with people from the FAO and others. And something I just learned recently was we'll be talking about also the web of things, not to be the WOT, not to be confused with the Internet of Things. They're different. I'll explain that to you later. But let's get started now with a discussion with Imma Subirats, Coll, Senior Information Management Officer at the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, the FAO. Imma, you lead the AGROVOC, AGRIS, and AGORA programs to enhance accessibility and visibility of knowledge, information, and data produced by FAO member countries. And your colleague, Kristin Kolshus, who you are the information management specialist, their coordinator of AGROVOC Editors Community. AGROVOC is a SCOS-XL concept scheme, a multilingual controlled vocabulary available in up to 40 languages, and a linked open data set. AGROVOC covers lots of the FAO's sandbox, which includes food, nutrition, agriculture, forestry, fisheries, and environment. A lot of things to keep track of, and that's why it's very important that the data works. Kristin, go ahead. Take it. Before you do start, please, the tech tips. Any questions, because we'd love to have questions from all of you in the chat. Look at the chat below. You can put that in the chat. And to hashtag when you want to, if you hear a good soundbite, if you want to make a good statement to cast it wider, send it on Twitter to hashtag ENDORSE 2021. And this will be recorded for future viewing, so keep that in mind. And Kristin, please take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is so nice to be here at the ENDORSE conference, day 3. Thank you, Christopher. I'm here with Imma Subirats Coll from FAO, and we're going to talk about AGROVOC, managing a multilingual thesaurus through networked collaboration. And yes, there's been a lot of talk about semantics the last couple days, and we will follow up on that. So as Christopher mentioned, AGROVOC is a controlled vocabulary covering the areas of interest of FAO. So we're talking forestry, fisheries, agriculture, food security, policies. The scope goes on and on. It's wonderful. And it's a very popular thesaurus. It's linked open data. We have about almost 39,000 concepts, 806,000 terms in different languages, and it's available in up to 40 languages. And you might say, how do you do this? Because it is a very small team. Well, we have a network of editors. We'll come back to that. But firstly, since this is a practical session on how it's being used, it's, as you may imagine, it's being used to index information resources. So traditionally, it was used for publications, also websites, in search engines, things like that, reference for translators. Increasingly, we're seeing it used for linking data sets as a semantic hub and enhancing access to data. So linking resources across the Internet of Things, which Christopher will come back to. So it's very much used to tag articles, data sets, and the whole point is to make it information and resources more visible, accessible, and findable for users, and to understand things, because that is not always simple. So this really goes into the FAIR principles, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. This is really about making sure that we understand that we're talking about the same kind of information, the same data. We need quality and standards when we're sharing content and metadata to make sure it can be shared. And we need to use standards, so we're using a common language, not just across languages, but also in understanding. And together, these are the FAIR principles, and information should be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. So how do we get these 40 languages possible? This is because we have an amazing network of editorial partners across the world. These are national and international institutions that take on curation of languages and technical topics, which might be aquatic sciences and fisheries, land governance, other issues, but they are contributing time and knowledge and expertise because it also contributes to making research in their languages accessible and visible. So it's a great project. So Imma is going to talk now a little bit about some use cases. Over to you, Imma.
Hi, thank you, Kristin. So I'm going to simply present 5 use cases with the objective to show you some implementations that exist in the context of food and agriculture that uses or use AGROVOC as the backbone and try to use it as well to create more coherence among the data that is being harvested from a heterogeneous, let's say, a network of data resources. The first one is the traditional search engine that is harvesting metadata from different data repositories that have publications. This is essentially search engine that is using metadata. AGRIS is the name, is managed by FAO, and it has about 12 million records coming from all over the place. It's a global information service and multilingual because there are more than 90 languages represented in this search engine. So why is AGRIS using AGROVOC? Well, the AGROVOC is what enables AGRIS to make it possible that people can search among the whole information system, considering that there are plenty of metadata records that are in languages that are not English. So by using AGROVOC, definitely AGRIS gets the best that can get from a tool, semantically speaking, that enriches their content. Next, please. This is another type of information resource. This is let's say, it's a multilingual document repository. It hosts full text. And essentially, there are, well, they have several publications. In this case, the photos that you see are coming from FAO, but we know that is being also used by other important networks of research organizations in our sector, like, for instance, CGIAR. Essentially, what AGROVOC enables in a case like this is that people can search using AGROVOC and can get more efficient and pertinent results about the publications that they want to access to. AGROVOC becomes an essential tool for them to ensure discoverability, for instance, linking a little bit with what Kristin mentioned about the FAIR data. So how important is publish data to publish publications on the web, but at the same time it's very important that these publications can be fundable, can be discoverable, that can be used by any kind of user in the internet. Next, and now I'm going to move to more specific use cases. So these two before were more traditional publications, and it's what was mentioned before. That was more or less the role that AGROVOC has been playing now for many years, but now is also being used to link, let's say, resources, let's say data sets among them. For instance, this is a case of is a use case from Germany. Is a project that is linking different types of resources related to the pest control. However, it's so heterogeneous, and it's quite a challenge also to make possible that all these things are discovered, let's say, easily. So what they have developed essentially is a concept hub through the use of AGROVOC that is mapping all these resources and enables the end user to get access to these data sets and these types of information through different interfaces, as you can see. Since there are different stakeholders involved in this project, they want to recover this data from their own websites along in this case, Germany. But the idea is good. So they are using AGROVOC as a hub. And from AGROVOC, they link the other resources from all these heterogeneous information resources, let's say, or resources. Next. This goes still in the same direction. This is more about farm management, information systems. This use case is again from Germany. And in this case, the idea was to provide information resources related to anything that has to do with the pertinent, let's say, to farm management. From farmers to farmer associations could be potentially interested in something like that. In this case, they are using AGROVOC in a more traditional way. They are labeling the content using the URIs for AGROVOC. And through this, they have developed a new ontology in RDF that helps them to structure better all the information that they have in the back end of this information system. So in this case, AGROVOC is an additional resource to be included in a new ontology and is enabling them to get the subject covered through a real existing reliable resource like AGROVOC. Next. And this is another interesting one. This is probably less fashionable than the two before, but it's essentially is the use case where we have agricultural investment applications. So in this case, one of our partners, KTBL, has different sources for information about investing and production in the context of farming, and that they are using this front end that you see to provide information related to this particular topic, and they are using AGROVOC as a dictionary. And they are also enriching, let's say, AGROVOC through the possibility to get additional terms and feedback from their community. All five are very similar. It's not rocket science. The point is that AGROVOC is extremely easy to use. This has the multilingual aspect that makes it very, very, let's say, useful when we are talking about information systems that are not necessarily English driven, and definitely is a tool that also helps to create additional resources in information systems that traditionally would be stuck with heterogeneous data, difficult to enrich. And just the last slide, just to say there are different resources. If you want to look at it, we have recently published a book, which is the AGROVOC Semantic Data Interoperability on Food and Agriculture, which aims to position it to locate AGROVOC in the context that I was trying to explain. There are also editorial guidelines for those that want to learn about how we are making possible that such a complex tool in terms of multilinguality can work. And considering that we have such amount of stakeholders and editors, and what is not easy sometimes, but it works very well. And then there are a couple of brochures in case that you need more information. And our intervention goes up to here, Chris, if yes.
He might have problems with the
Yes.
sound.
No, I had several screens open because I'm looking at different things at the same time regarding this event, of course. And anyway, I'm back. I do have a question for you. For you, I see that you do not have editorial partners in Africa. Is that right?
Well spotted. Yes, exactly. This is one of the things that we are planning to do. And actually, I will be very happy to hear any suggestion from the audience. We would like to include regional languages and national languages in Africa. One of those, we have something in Swahili, but we don't have really a partner curating Swahili at the moment. And so we would be very happy to hear about possible partners in Africa or people that have contacts in Africa and would like to suggest some names.
Okay, that's good. That's good to pass that on. And by the way, I see that some people are having a little bit of difficulty putting things into the chat, if I'm not mistaken. And one way to fix that, I'm told, is to close the chat and open it again. That might help. So, because we'd love to get more of your questions. I do have another question here. Are there curated links between AGROVOC and international classifications like CPA or the combined nomenclature?
Do you want to go for this one?
Sure. We're working a lot on alignments. So for example, our host EuroVoc is something we also try to make sure when we have new concepts, we add alignments. So we're very much trying to focus on collaborations also with known glossaries, taxonomies, classifications, but they need to have URIs that we can link to. If they do, we're very happy to look at them. But of course, yes, now thesaurus and hello, Aniko, yes, EuroVoc, of course, World Bank, others.
Okay, next question. Are there other than AGROVOC, other resources available at FAO? I mean, yes, of course, but I mean, I guess if are there others like it, maybe? Yeah.
Other taxonomies, yes. There is FAO term, for instance, what is the FAO terminology, is a little bit less flexible probably than AGROVOC, because AGROVOC is simply including suggestions coming from a broad community. FAO term has a more specific goal. We are trying to be aligned to them as much as we can. Kristin is doing an excellent work on this. But besides that, I would say that FAO term and AGROVOC are the biggest taxonomies and probably the most known as well in FAO, if we talk about the taxonomies particularly.
Okay, and how often is AGROVOC updated?
Right, this is an interesting one. In the past, before this new team where we are now took AGROVOC, AGROVOC was updated once a year, sometimes even once every year and a half. However, we found out that in order to provide the service we were expecting, that it was expected from us in this particular editorial community that we have built, was very important to really publish AGROVOC every month. So we have every month a release so that people can also get the input that they have provided during the month immediately published. They can see the results, and this makes things, at least for us, much more, let's say, from a pragmatic perspective, much more efficient than doing releases in too long periods of time.
Okay. I guess, let's see. I mean, how in your dream o vision, how often should it be updated?
Once a month is good because a new concept comes in and then other editors in the network have a chance to add translations, definitions. So once a month is a pretty good turnaround.
Yeah.
But it's really important we get the feedback. So we look at emerging publications and resources to stay as up to date as possible, which is otherwise impossible with such a huge scope.
Yeah, right. I would say that publishing it also every month gives us the time enough to work on quality. We are not so much working on quantity but quality. So it would be nice to publish it more often probably, or immediately published. But this gives us a little bit of a chance to make sure that quality is our priority and is fulfilled. Yeah.
All right. Next question. A lot of questions today. That's good. The use cases touched mostly institutional areas. do you see also uses at lower level, business level, for example? Or that's a different level. I don't know if it's lower, but different.
You could use even AGROVOC for an application, a web application, or you could use it for a web, I don't know, anything. I mean, it's an instrument that helps to provide a kind of coherence thematically to any kind of data set, any kind of a resource that has data in. So you can use it for everything. We took these 5 use cases because we know them and we wanted to make sure that we were presenting something that is that the people that are attending this session can go and to double check and to that the context in these projects are also available to answer any question from the audience in offline after the session. But we know that AGROVOC is used all over the place globally. We don't have control about that though, because the idea is that FAO is releasing it and everybody can use it anytime as they wish. So
open access.
Yes.
Could you comment on the data governance behind the maintenance of AGROVOC? Any specific roles like data steward?
Maybe Kristin wants to take that one.
Sure, we have AGROVOC editorial guidelines at the editorial level, but there's also curation and validation to make sure the data is coherent. Before each release, we also run Sparkle queries to make sure that the data is coherent and makes sense. Our colleague Andrea Turbati is in the audience at the moment. Hello. So yes, it's there's a lot of thought behind not just adding translations, but that the coherence and the quality of the data is kept up to date, which we see geopolitical changes, evolving taxonomy. It keeps going, but it's really interesting. And but as Imma said, the quality is really important, and it's not to underestimate the amount of work it takes as concepts evolve.
Okay, I think I have a question for you. As I'm wondering, as I'm listening to this, I'm wondering how much interface there is between AGROVOC and FAO and the European institutions, European governments. How much interface is there?
Well, interface in what sense, Chris? You mean?
Well, I bet sharing information, sharing data.
Well, I think it's that with AGROVOC, we are collaborating in the sense that we are aligning both vocabularies pretty well. But when we talk about going to another level, so we are working more with research organizations, probably, even though we have not at the European level, but there are some countries where we work with the ministries of agriculture.
Oh, yeah.
Here in Europe, we are, I would say that in most of the cases, and or even better, all the cases are research organizations or NGOs. It's more in the global south, probably, or middle income countries where the ministries play a bigger role in that sense, and particularly curating AGROVOC in their own national languages, and to make sure that this vocabulary is available, I don't know, in Turkish, in Romanian, and particularly because our editorial partner is from Moldova, or we also have a very strong commitment from Russia Federation, and this is also very much related to the ministry. So depends a little bit. I mean, we are very flexible. We are trying to work with those organizations that are willing to maintain the language that they are interested in a kind of reliable way, a constant way.
Okay, great. Well, I think that that does it. We're coming right up to 14:05 CET. So thank you so much, Kristin and Imma of the FAO. That was really great. Good start for today in track 2. And hope you can stick with us and listen in. If you have questions, please do put them in. And let's move on to the next section of track 2 today, which is building a common language for semantic interoperability. And talking with us about that is Elena Shulman of D.E.Solution, your co-owner. Elena, you're an expert in semantic interoperability, recently contributed in a harmonization effort led by the European Commission's DG Communication, aimed at enabling semantic and technical interoperability across multiple public-facing websites of the European Commission. That's quite a job there, Elena. Can you tell us about this?
Yes, okay, thank you very much. I'll give you a overview of what I've done, and also kind of just my experience with similar tasks, similar projects from a variety of clients. But I'll use the experience with DGCOM as the example.
And by the way, for those listening, please, if you have any questions for Elena, please do put them into the chat, and we will get to them as soon as we can.
So give me a sec to share my screen here and get going.
There we go. And in the meantime, hashtag endorse 2021 for anything you would like to tweet of what we're talking about today. Thank you.
Okay. So, all right, so what I'm going to tell you about is what it takes to enable semantic interoperability. And what do we mean by that? What do I mean by semantic interoperability? Very simply put, is that content providers use a common language to describe content. That's really what we're talking about. And a common language, vocabularies, controlled vocabularies are the building blocks of a common language to talk about things. So really, that's as simple as that. Of course, it's much more complicated than that ultimately, but this is what I'm talking about. I'm going to use as an example a project, an ongoing project, a digital transformation project of the European Commission to transform their public-facing websites into a coherent, cohesive whole that speaks, where content providers speak to one another, where aggregation is possible, where management across all the different content providers, management of content is possible, and where it's possible for the content to be understood by machines, not just within the European Commission, but outside of it. So it's this grand kind of project, it's an ongoing project, and vocabularies, control vocabularies, are essential element of that project. Now, one of the things that that is not, in some sense, unique about this context, but not may not be unique in all situations, is that there was no common language whatsoever across all of these different content providers for the public-facing information systems. So we're talking about basically starting from scratch. So this may or may not be something that you're familiar with, but surprisingly or not, many very large organizations have no common language. And this is not something that I haven't seen before. So when you are dealing with that kind of situation, there's a certain number of things that you want to take into account and keep in mind. In the context of the European Commission, we're talking about a large variety of websites from the different DGs and subsections of DG's websites. So we're talking about more than 50 websites that ultimately are now speaking a common language. Based on the outcomes of this project. So they're speaking the common language, a machine understandable common language. So what are the kind of best practices that I recommend just based on this experience and other experiences I have and best practices in the field if you are also facing a similar grand task of enabling semantic interoperability? You want to take into consideration kind of a holistic approach, all these vantage points that have to be constantly balanced. The context, the content, the end user, who are the end users searching for content, and who are the taggers? Who is going to actually use the vocabularies that are going to be assigned to describing this content? You're going to have to identify systems for managing these controlled vocabularies. Either you're going to have to establish a centralized system, or you're going to identify a centralized system that is already available within the large organization that you're working with that you may not really realize exists, but oftentimes does exist. Somebody else somewhere else is already managing vocabulary. So you want to reuse what's already there. You're going to be setting up information models. You're going to really have to focus on documentation and training as well as tools, not just tools for searching, not just tools for aggregating, but tools for those who need to do the work, to those who need to manage those vocabularies, those who need to use those vocabularies. These are all of the things that need to be put in place to enable that semantic interoperability in the long term. So this is a long-term project that evolves and that has all of these elements. So just a little bit about what I mean, context. For instance, what is important in that particular organization? Is external interoperability important? In other words, does your content need to speak to the rest of the world? Should it be described in a way that machines outside of your organization can understand? What kind of services do you want to build upon on top of this new common language that you're going to create? What kind of content are you describing? The languages that you need are going to be highly dependent on the content itself. What really needs to be said about that content, and that's really part of developing the information models by a very close look at the content and what matters for the organization in that particular domain to say about that content. Who is the target audience? What's known about their behavior? What's known about their what's called user satisfaction in library science? You know, what is a good number of results? Are your end users expecting to find just the one or two things that are relevant for them, or are they happy to have 300 result sets, etc.? Are they professionals? Are they specialists in the field? Do you need to have a very precise vocabulary that they will understand and use, or are they more likely general audiences that won't react very well to particular jargon and don't need that kind of precision? And finally, and most importantly, and this I think is sometimes forgotten, but is actually critical in all of the other decisions you're going to make, is who's going to be tagging the content with the vocabularies, the common language that you say is going to be needed. Are they professional librarians? And I think you have other colleagues who are presenting on this in this context, like the colleagues from AGROVOC. I mean, they're professional librarians who know how to classify content. It's a whole field, professional field. Or are they just authors that you're asking to tag their content, but okay, they know their content very well? Or are they just, you know, busy webmasters who are told, upload these things, tag them, move along, right? So who are you dealing with? What are they able to handle? What can you expect in terms of consistency and quality of tagging? And if you don't take that into consideration, all of this other work that you're putting into place will come crashing down in a kind of inconsistency and problematic tagging. In the context of the European Commission, the overall, so here's an example of concrete. Okay, the overall objective is openness, borderless. There's a lot of focus on making content interoperable, reusing centralized services. Sometimes I think colleagues think that making something open means just publishing it. Okay, but openness is actually not just publishing it, but publishing it with structured, machine understandable data and standards. And that's something that needs to be also emphasized to clients as well. So publishing is not the same thing as being open. Ultimately, that having that centralized managing authority for managing these vocabularies and publishing them online so that content is truly open so machines can understand what is it that you're publishing is essential. And in this case, we have the Office of Publications already managing a large number of relevant vocabularies and providing a platform to actually create and manage vocabularies that was in place. Now, that the DG.Com, the Department for Communication, was not aware necessarily of all of the services already available, you know, in another department. Right, so this is an example where things exist, but maybe those not everyone's aware. So you have to as you come into these kind of situations, you might find some treasures and partners in enabling that interoperability that are somewhat unexpected too on the starting point. So in this context, the idea was to really reuse what was already available as much as possible, but to also take into account the specific requirements of who is doing the tagging, what kind of content was being described, the needs of the particular situation. In the case of the web presence, the content is actually quite fluid. There's new subject matter, press releases, news, etc. So it's a constantly evolving subject matter. So the lists that you use have to be updated relatively quickly and regularly. The other context that's very important here for any kind of decision making was who was going to do the tagging. The tagging is basically done by webmasters who are not specialists in classification, who have very little kind of bandwidth to really get to know a very large, complex list. And so in this case, some of the vocabularies managed by the Office of Publication were perfect for this situation, and others needed to be further customized and managed directly by DG Comm, especially the vocabulary to describe the subject matter. So most of you know EGROVOC is would be a natural choice to say, okay, well, that describes subject matter, but it's actually it was too big and too difficult for webmasters at the DG that were looking at this content to use. So the decision was based on this understanding to just take a subset of EGROVOC and manage that separately, and be able to add new terms as necessary for the DGCOM context, but then maintain mappings to EGROVOC at the same time. So it's a complex system. So the solution was to take into account all those vantage points that I mentioned, you reuse as much as possible, but also customize what was absolutely necessary based on really the specific context, so that it actually is a success and not just kind of a well, we'll grab everything and hope for the best, right? Because that's never going to work out so well. So one of the, as I mentioned, for the subject vocabulary, we developed a digital Europa thesaurus, which is probably about 80% coming from EGROVOC, but restructured in a different hierarchy, somewhat different hierarchy, reusing, in many cases, it reuses the EGROVOC's already existing translations. So there's no need to retranslate everything, reusing the synonyms in EGROVOC, and then the colleagues at the Office of Publications created mappings between this sublist and EGROVOC and publish it. So they manage this list together and help in a great way. So this is a collaboration that both meets a specific need and the need for interoperability beyond the context of the web presence.
Elena, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you have 2 minutes left. I'm so sorry, and we have some questions if there's time.
Yeah. So so this is an example of how you solve and take into account the variety of needs. There's always a balancing act. So you build collaborations, you reuse existing services, but you may, but there are things that you might want to consider, before you decide to go either completely adopt an existing solution or to create something brand new. So I'll just stop here and take questions, and be able to explain further.
Okay. All right. Well, we have a minute left. Let me ask you the first one. How is it possible to consolidate the needs of webmasters and librarians / professional indexers in terms of tagging the content? I think you touched on that a bit, didn't you? Or...
Yeah. So the way you reconcile that issue is to have a very clear strategy and communication about what is the objective of tagging. You have to help the various content owners understand, what's the point of tagging? In this case, and especially in the case of the European Commission, the tagging is just to help to find similar content together. You have to explain the purpose of the taxonomy. I think that there's a lack of a shared understanding of what is the purpose of tagging. What is the purpose of the actual, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? The purpose is actually just to find that similar content together. And that's very important because it helps reset the perspective of those using the vocabularies, because sometimes they think, oh, I'm tagging this so that all the subject matter that's mentioned is tagged, or I'm tagging this so some person that comes to this website will find just the right perfect thing to find that known item. But actually, it's to find similar content together so it can be aggregated.
Okay, great. Elena, thank you so much. Elena Shulman, D.E.Solution, for your presentation. And maybe later we might have more time for questions, but I need to move on. So please do stay with us. And for those who would still like to ask more questions, please send them in. Let's move on to using a COVID taxonomy to improve the findability of e-learning sessions for health professionals. And the presentation will come from Maura Moran of Mekon Ltd. You've worked with a number of UK government departments, particularly in the health domain, as well as global clients in the pharma, education, and manufacturing sectors, involving change management and content governance. Maura, please.
Hi, everyone. So can I ask the moderator, can you see my presentation okay?
I do. Yes, I do.
Okay, even if I move it?
Yes, I do. Looks good.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you.
So hi, everyone, and welcome. So today I'm going to share with you our experience of developing a COVID taxonomy and using it to improve the search results for an e-learning for health site. So I hope you'll find some useful lessons here. And if you have any questions, just put them in the chat and the moderator will summarize them at the end. So just to introduce myself, I'm Maura Moran. I'm a senior content consultant at Mekon. We're a specialist content management consultancy based in London, but with global clients, including a lot of UK government clients. So one of our clients is Health Education England, and they're part of England's National Health Service, so the publicly funded health service that we all use. And they provide online training for health workers, so for doctors, nurses, pharmacists, etc. They have an online site where you find this training, and they were getting feedback that it was difficult to find the content. And there are a couple of reasons for that. The first is that their search actually didn't use any sort of synonyms, so they didn't have a taxonomy. So for instance, if you search for intensive care or ICU, you should get the same results back, but you didn't. It was just doing really a full text search. Also, they source content from a variety of organizations. They're not employees, they're all sorts of government and medical organizations, and they were using inconsistent metadata terms. So they had a project running already to try to improve the website. And then obviously when the pandemic hit, this became much more urgent. Training became a real focus, partly because there was so much new knowledge coming for COVID that they had to disseminate. And also they had people swapping roles, maybe moving into intensive care, and also even returning from retirement in order to help out. So they needed a solution. So from the beginning, taxonomy was really key to the vision for improving the site, because we knew that it would immediately increase search accuracy, even just with the use of synonyms. So Richard Price at HE lobbied really hard to get taxonomy invested in. And in fact, this poster on the right, it was one of his campaign posters. They also ran a proof of concept. It was really useful to prove to people what he meant, because those of you who work in taxonomy will know it can be hard to make people understand the benefit of it. It sounds maybe a bit abstract for most people. And as a result, he got the approval to invest in 3 new tools. So a taxonomy management tool, which was Pool Party, a new search, which was Elastic, and then a search indexing tool, which was i3. So obviously, what we wanted to do was license taxonomies and not develop one at all. And we did actually add to the indexing MESH and ICD-11, which are kind of health industry standard taxonomies, but they weren't quite sufficient for our needs. So they're very clinical, very records focused. They didn't really describe content in a way that you would need to if you were looking for training, for instance. And equally, we looked at some emerging COVID taxonomies, because we weren't the only ones who needed to find COVID material last year. They turned out to be very scientific. They were a lot about gene sequencing or about variants. So we decided we had to really develop our own knowledge model and our own COVID taxonomy. So one of the things we did was think about the different facets we needed, so the different categories by which people would be searching for content. So we had not just condition, which is disease, but also other things. So you could search by role, so content for you if you were a nurse or a pharmacist, or settings, so content aimed at people on a hospital ward or in a nursing home. We had to promote policies and best practices, so infection control, for instance, very important. We had to cover public health needs like stopping smoking, also important if you get COVID. And then we grouped learning in pathways, so particularly for people who were returning to work from retirement, there was kind of a whole group of things that they had to take in order to get back up to speed, and so we grouped them all together. and also searching by content source. So I won't read them all out, but you can see here all the facets we came up with. So how did we develop the taxonomy? So remember, we had an existing site that we were improving, and that was obviously very helpful, much easier than starting from scratch. So the first thing I did was look at the folder structure, because someone had already done a lot of thinking about what the key terms were in terms of classifying the content. And in these slides, these green boxes are the facets, which I just showed you, and these yellow yellow boxes are examples of terms. So you can see here, just from the folder structure, we found terms like PPE for equipment, critical care setting for setting, and returning to work for a pathway. The second thing we did was look at search logs, and I'm really keen at looking at search logs when you're developing a taxonomy for findability, because it gives you the language that your users are actually using, which is not necessarily the language that you would come up with if you're describing it, you know, from an academic point of view. So we looked at the top 250 search terms. After that, they all started to tail off and just become individual search terms. But the top 250, there were thousands of terms. So here you can see again the facets, condition and legal, and the terms we got: sepsis, COVID, and safeguarding. And I just want to point out, interestingly, in safeguarding, this is misspelled. So in English, this should be G-U-A-R-D, and yet practically 1,500 people spelled it wrong in their search. So it's a really good way of illustrating that you don't necessarily know the terms that your users are using. We found this, these are all the COVID terms. So you can see there are about 12 terms here, all sorts of different spellings. Again, a few misspellings with coronavirus with an O, and just various variants for them. And again, we were able to make these all synonyms so that they return the same search results. And another point I just want to make is you have to be really pragmatic. I think the last speaker was saying this as well. You know, this is a taxonomy for findability. So in fact, we know that COVID and coronavirus are not actually synonyms. One's the virus and one's the disease. But in terms of what people were hoping to find when they searched for them, we thought they were hoping to find the same training. So that's why we made them synonyms. So just be pragmatic. And then finally, we just reviewed the title and the description of all the courses, and I use that to fill in gaps. So these three actions, the search terms, the folder, and the titles and descriptions, gave us a big set of candidate terms, and then we grouped them into facets. We grouped synonyms together to make concepts, and then I just did a sense check. And often one term then suggested gaps that became other terms. So for instance, we had adult critical care in our candidate terms, but we didn't have pediatric critical care, so children's critical care. But I thought, well, if you have adult, you'll have one for pediatric. And so we added that term in. And the same with other things like radiography. So interpreting things like x-rays suggested radiographer, the person who interprets them. So in that way, we were able to complete the taxonomy and anticipate some content that came on later in the year. So just before we launched, we did a clinical review with some actual doctors, because that's obviously very important for accuracy. And then we also hooked it up to the search and did some tests. And this was also really crucial. So I'll show you a problem that we found immediately. So this search for invasive ventilation found this result, non-invasive ventilation. So exactly the opposite of what you were searching for. And the reason was to do with how the search itself was configured. So it was configured to find any word in a phrase. And we found it again with another search term. We were searching for treatments for older people, and it actually found treatments for younger people because it was finding people. So what we did to fix that was actually fine-tune the search itself. We made it into an exact phrase search. But again, I think this is a really important point. If your taxonomy has a purpose and you need to check that it's working with that purpose, because another site you might well want to have an any search rather than an exact phrase search. You might want as many search results as possible to make sure people are getting a really comprehensive set of results. But for us, we wanted a very specific set of results. You know, we wanted people to quickly find what they were interested in, and so for us, we needed an exact phrase search. Now, in general, I really would advise doing user testing with real users before you launch, but I have to say in this case we didn't, because the pandemic was such an emergency and our own testing was showing that the search was becoming a lot more accurate. We actually did just launch. So where we are now, we have a new site launched in beta, and the search accuracy is much improved. We've had some positive feedback from it, so hopefully people are finding the information more quickly. This is a really important point, I think. HEE are willing to license the COVID taxonomy for non-commercial use under a Creative Commons license. So if you're from a government agency or academia and you have a non-commercial purpose, do just get in touch with me and I can put you in touch with HEE. And our next steps is we'd like, when people are submitting content, because remember, it comes from all sorts of different organizations, we'd like them to see the taxonomy and actually use our metadata terms rather than inventing their own. That would really help with consistency. And we also want to implement a knowledge graph. So we'd like to be able to use those relationships that say insulin treats diabetes, not just the synonym relationships. I think that would give a really interesting navigation path to various content. Right, so that's the end of the presentation. I hope you found it useful. Hopefully some questions have come in the chat, but feel free to contact me afterwards as well.
Yes, indeed, Maura. Thank you very much, Maura Moran. I do have a question here for you. Now that you have created the necessary taxonomy, how is new data being integrated to the system? Who is retrieving it and how?
So the new data in the new taxonomy terms, I assume they mean.
Yeah.
So in terms of the taxonomy terms, HEE are actually maintaining it. They have a kind of librarian department, and they're looking at the new content which is being added, and also reviewing the search logs. If what you meant is how is new content being indexed with the taxonomy, that's the indexing tool I mentioned, i3. So that's just being run over, I think, pretty continuously, actually. So the site's just constantly re-indexed.
Okay, good. Next question. Does NHS use mesh? And does this COVID thesaurus mesh with mesh?
Sorry, I missed the first term. Does what use mesh?
Does the NHS use mesh?
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah, the NHS uses mesh and ICD-11, but they use them for records management and for statistics. So currently, this taxonomy is standalone. We have added mesh as an indexing taxonomy to the content, so you can search by mesh terms and you'll find the content. Currently, our taxonomy doesn't mesh with mesh, so it's not hooked up to mesh, if you like. We might do that in future.
Okay, another question. Could you define how the search by role was defined?
Oh, sure. So it was really those three steps. I mean, we had a hypothesis that people would want to search by role because, if you're a nurse or a pharmacist or a physiotherapist, the content's actually written differently for you because it's training content, right? It's not just reference content.
Right.
So I looked at those folder titles and I saw, it was like, ventilation for nurses or, nutrition for healthcare aides, that sort of thing. And that made us think that facet was really important. And then I just went through those three steps, the folder titles, the search logs, where we did see people were saying, some people just searched like nurse, which, you need more searching than that, even with a good taxonomy. But people were saying, COVID for nurses, COVID for radiographers. And then we looked at the titles and descriptions of all the courses, or just built them out like that.
I think that's fascinating about anticipating how people are going to misspell. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. And that we really got that from the search logs. I mean, we anticipated they would misspell, but the search logs gave us the actual misspelling. And safeguarding was a really common misspelling. It's not an easy word in English, even for native speakers.
No, yeah, that's right. Ken, a couple of more questions. I think we have about a minute and a half left. Let's see here. Well, could you define how the search by role was defined?
Did I just answer that?
I think you did. How is content tagged with the taxonomy? Are there keywords linked to each concept so that keyword extraction could work?
Yeah, this isn't my particular area of expertise. This was the search indexing, which is developed by a company called Findwise. So they use the taxonomy to run over the full text of the content. So they run over the title and the description. I think it's weighted. So if the keyword appears in the title, it's more of a match than if it's just on page 80, of the content. And they do use the keywords. So they use the synonyms that I was describing. So it's really a full text indexing, but with with weighted elements.
Okay, can you answer this in 10 seconds? Have you defined competency questions while defining and building the taxonomy you presented? If so, could we elaborate on those questions, validation tools, Sparkle rules? That is a mouthful. What can you do with that?
Yeah, in 10 seconds, I can say, no, we haven't.
Perfect.
No, there's no Sparkle. But as I say, if you want to license the taxonomy for a non-commercial purpose, do just get in touch with me. You know, I'm easy to find on Twitter and LinkedIn and stuff, and I'll pass you on to ATE.
That's great. Maura Moran of Mekon, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's move on to two more people from FAO. On the FAO Caliper platform, Caterina Caracciolo, data exchange specialist at the FAO, interoperability of statistical data in the area of agriculture. Your work deals with semantic technologies, including vocabularies, taxonomies, and ontologies. And Carola Fabi, you are senior statistician at FAO. So buongiorno a voi due, and please, you can start now, and we can hopefully get some more questions like we did for this last one. Questions into the chat and the screen down below for those watching. And go ahead, Caterina, Carola, please.
Yes, hello, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Carola Fabi, and I'm a senior statistician with the FAO Statistics Division. I will just introduce this short presentation, and then Caterina will take over. So what we're going to present is a new platform that FAO has developed for open link classification, and that we have called Caliper, by the way. So we're presenting the Caliper platform. Now, so a few words really about how did Caliper start. So we come from a different angle from the presentation that we have just heard. FAO, and we really would like you to understand the needs that guided then the features and the development of the whole platform. Now, FAO is an international organization with a strong statistical mandate. It collects and disseminates data and statistics of all countries of the world, and then compiles additional indicators and regional and global aggregates. In particular, we are the custodian agency for 21 Sustainable Development Goal indicators. And this, of course, interacts with a growing demand for not only high quality, but also internationally comparable statistics, which makes FAO develop, implement, and promote methods and standards to guide the national data producers. And by methods and standards, we consider the classifications as well, the classifications being the backbone of data and statistics for further processing and for consistency, cross-domain, cross-countries, and international comparability. So the organization has a stake in several classifications on food, agriculture, fisheries, forestry, land, and of course also geographical entities. And we are driven by an internal drive to harmonize and integrate our data and have a single source of truth for the international classification and concepts, and an external drive in our dialogue with the countries, where we request countries to send us the data, and we strive for the use of international classification and shared concepts. And at the same time, we receive requests from our partners, including the development partners, who ask for data transparency and traceability. So the opportunity for developing the Caliper platform actually stemmed from the need to increase transparency and traceability of aid data, where the donors, the development partners, are the main stakeholders, and so the Caliper was ultimately developed with funds from the Gates Foundations. And so, in fact, without further ado, since time is short, I pass the floor to Caterina to guide you through the Caliper that is really an interoperability tool for open link classification. So thank you very much, and Caterina, up to you.
Caterina, do you have your mic on?
Caterina, we can't hear you. Still can't hear you.
If Caterina is having trouble, maybe Carola, you can just continue until Caterina.
Oh, there it
Here
is.
we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me
great.
now?
Yes, we hear you now.
Well, apparently where the headset, it was working in this morning on the test, but
Okay. You just decided to quit.
let me
Okay, we got you now, though. That's good.
increase the volume, though. Otherwise, I can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear us now? You hear us okay?
Okay. Yeah. Well.
Okay. Perfecto.
Okay. Caliper today will highlight some features and mention something about the plan for the future. Just a quick note, you might have noticed on the agenda, on the program, that we are present today with 3 slots. So this one is a presentation. The idea of today, this presentation, this slot is to give a general view of the initiative. Then we have a demo, right, following this one. And then we have a slot into the workshop with Eurostat and the publication office, where we are going to talk especially on site occasions for collaborations. So Caliper is a web platform. So for you is a website, a web platform that acts as a server for statistical classifications. There you can find the classifications in machine-readable formats, inspired by the technology of the linked open data. So it's based on open standard and open software for along the entire life cycle. Give me a second. Okay. As just mentioned by Carola, Caliper was originally developed within a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The grant has just finished, and we are now in a transition phase. So we're moving from the project arrangement into becoming a real service. This is why we actually, right now, these days, we're moving the website, and we are in this transition of having two URLs. Eventually, of course, the previous one will be discontinued, and we will move also to a more stable address. But for now, we'll have to live with this. So first of all, let's try to clarify what we mean by statistical classifications. This is a table from FAO. It is a table reporting data on yields in a certain year, 2019, in Eritrea, one country. So highlighted that the box is the actual data. Some people will call only that part as data, the numbers. Classifications are here. So these are represented dimensions of the data. So the geographical area and the item, barley, cereals, maize, millet, and so on, that are to which the data refer. So the rationale, so this data is used everywhere. FAO, as Carola described, as its mandate for collection of data, but also for maintaining classification and analyzing the data, distributing, collaborating with countries. So in fact, the importance is of classification for collecting statistical data cannot be underestimated. On top of this, as you can imagine, a lot of decision making is made and interpretation and debate. So it's important that the classification themselves and their construction and meaning is well open and well described. And this is actually the rationale behind. They are global standards, classification, and so they should be treated as such. It should be possible to refer to them without ambiguity, without loss or corruption of meaning in all phases, like sharing, reusing, and using them in data. In a few words, this is for us to serve statistical classification as public goods. So what does Caliper offer? If you look at the table, think of the table shown earlier, and you take one item, the classification. For each of those items and the classifications included, we have a number of functionalities. So this is a screenshot from one of the visualization tools that exposes to the public the data behind, which is according to the following the linked open data paradigm is RDF. We'll have a little bit more in the next slides about this. Anyway, here you can visualize, you can look at the all the pieces of information that we have concerning this item barley. So you can see the textual definition. You can see the name of that item in other languages. You can see the correspondences. Here they're called matches, correspondences to relevant classifications. Isaac is a classification of activities. And you can see a URI, so it's a global identifier for that specific item. More about this in the next slides. Then you also have other functionalities. This is a screenshot from the search interface for searching correspondences. You can select from the menus cascade menu a source target and define whether you want an exact or partial match or both. And also you have functionalities for using the classifications in computer system information management. That this is not for all users, of course, but from this query interface, you can query the classification as you want. Functionalities, a recap. So some of them are explicitly made for people. So lookup and browsing are primarily for people. Download is also, let's say, is a functionality, possibility of downloading the classification in different formats. But of course, download is also for applications together with the APIs and queries and the URI service, the URIs that I just mentioned. We also have included the editing platform, a Workbench, namely. Some of you who have followed the yesterday's session of the conference of ENDORSE, so you might have been present at the workshop on Workbench. What can you find in terms of content in Caliper right now? You have this list of classifications and code lists in different areas, activities, crops, forestry definitions, products, soil, and so on.
Caterina, if I can just jump in, you have less than 2 minutes at this point for the presentation, but you will be making a demonstration during the break. So anyway, just to keep that in mind, but we do need to wrap it up in the next couple minutes.
Okay, time really flies.
Sorry about that.
No, you're absolutely right. Content, so this will go with the, okay, we'll use the time to mention the 3 fundamental features of Caliper. The fact that we provide global identifiers over the web, that the modeling for rendering classification is standard, meaning that it relies on specifications given publicly by consortium like the W3C and DDI, and the source are all open source tools for benefit of transparency. Then I will stop here and maybe pick up some questions.
Okay, let me shoot one to you, and there are others that maybe we can give to you later during the break. But will Caliper be made available for free access strictly in the statistical community, or what is the model you intend to engage?
No, definitely open to everybody. Actually, all classifications are already in the public domain, so this is not a novelty. But the thing is that our functionalities, like we try to provide more functionalities on top of them.
Okay, great. Yeah.
And they
I'm
will
sorry.
be available
They will be available
publicly.
publicly. Okay, very good.
This is it. Yeah, this is what it's foreseen now.
Okay, very good. Well, we're right on time. Caterina, Caracciolo, and Carola, Fabi, thank you so much for joining us from the FAO. And we are going to a break, but at the same time, there will be a demonstration by Caterina. So Caterina, I guess you can continue with that for the next 10 minutes. If you do wrap it up between now and 1500, maybe we can shoot a couple more questions to you. So we'll go ahead and take it away, and then we'll come back at 1500 for another presentation. Okay.
Okay, so shall I?
Go ahead, Caterina. Yes, please.
Okay, okay. Give me a second.
Yeah, I got a few questions in. One quick question, Caterina, are you with us? Do you hear us?
Yes.
Does Caliper consume data terminology from AGROVOC?
Yes, in the sense that we have included links into AGROVOC. For example, when in all cases, when possible here, actually this already gives me the possibility of getting into the demo.
Oh, good. Great.
Okay, for my convenience, I will use the project website, but here you can see we already have the website on FAO, so there is also a matter of revamping the layout and so on. Anyway, if you look at the menu here, you can see that in page menu content, you can go to correspondences, and where you have the summary of the correspondences included in Caliper. And as you can see, we established links to AGROVOC. Now, something that I like to highlight, emphasize, is that all these tables are automatically generated by the data inside, by the RDF. So they will become immediately updated. They're always up to date, current with the data behind. Are there more questions? Should I continue? Okay, the other thing that you can see in the menu is the list of classifications. And since they're automatically generated, you can click on this on the cell, and you will get the search interface. Classifications. Now, content here, the menu classifications includes the entire list of classifications that we have, with some basic browsing, downloading in the endpoint, and to browsing for correspondences, which is the page where you already seen just now. If you click on any of this, especially like the crop. If you go to the crop, then you get that there's a long page that includes everything that we have in Caliper. So if you want to have an overview of the content and functionalities, you go here. So there is some metadata concerning sources, official pages, manual for reference. These are all elements taken by the data itself. So again, this is all automatically generated. The list of classifications that are linked, documentation, we'll see about this later, pointers to the browsing tool. This is something that I would like to explain a little bit, because we tested different visualization systems, different visualization like browsing interfaces. The This is perhaps the easiest if you want, very intuitive. It has a hierarchy-like interface, and you click, and to the right you see everything that is available and relevant. This Cosmos is an open source tool. Actually, this is part also of the infrastructure used by AGROVOC and by others, developed by the National Library of Finland. PMKI, I will talk about it later. Why we have these different interfaces for browsing? Because they have different advantages, and they are good for to visualize different things. As Cosmos, I recommend it as the most intuitive, works very well for the hierarchies. PMKI is it's the read-only version of the editing platform. So if you're interested in editing functionalities, you won't be able to edit anything, but you will have a feeling for what it looks like. Downloading, fairly as you would expect, the download of classification and mappings, and queries. This is something that, this is an interface. It's a way to bring users into the query classifications query world. It's a selection. We put here a selection of queries pre-made. If you click on any of those, for example, top items, you will get to this web interface, to the Sparkle endpoint, and with the query pre-made and the result. As you can see, we'll have the code of the item, the label in English, and the concept, because this is what the query asks for. But you can easily modify it by yourself, editing the query itself. Now, the thing is that these queries, you can also take, you as a developer, you could take and include in your information system or in your program or your code, and get the data as you want. How do I know, you may ask, how do I know about the data model behind? We follow as much as possible the standard specification given by W3C and NDDI, as I mentioned, XCOS. And there is actually, on top of this, there is extensive documentation from the documentation section on the RDF modeling side. The idea being how to interpret this, that there is a core, a basic core of for the modeling that includes the SCOS for the backbone and XCOS for some specific notions specific to statistical classifications. And then we document specific decisions made to accommodate specific needs or peculiar features of each classification. I see I have 2 more minutes. If there are questions, I'm happy to take them to visit the specific parts of the website. Otherwise,
Okay. Caterina, let's see, I see something here. How do you keep the data in Caliper up to date and or add new data?
So the editing platform, so the life cycle is that we started from other formats, a spreadsheet or database dump. They were converted into RDF either by means of Python scripts or directly into the editing platform, which is this VOC bench I mentioned. Then editing happens within a VOC bench. This is already done. It's already happening for real with NOX, which is the names of countries and territories. It's an FAO terminological system that has moved to Caliper, especially for the editing and visualization, the browsing functionalities. So it's a matter of the Workbench in essence is a website for you, so you access it from your browser with credential, and if you are an authorized user, you edit there. Then the connection from the editing website, from the editing platform to these functionalities, is by means of connection to the API made available by Workbench.
Okay, perfect. You're right on time, Caterina. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will see you again in 20 minutes at the workshop with other speakers. So that's great. Bravo, bravo. Fatto bene. So we will come back to Caterina later. Let's go on to the poster, Diverse Uses of a Semantic Graph Database for Knowledge Organization and Research. And for that, we are talking to Vladimir Alexiev, co-founder and chief data architect at Sirma.ai, the largest Bulgarian IT group and parent company of Ontotext. You've served on 5 Europeana task forces, including 2 on semantic enrichment, the Members' Council, and the Data Quality Committee. So quite busy with the Europeana. That's very interesting, which is focuses on culture, right? Culture. So Vladimir, please go ahead.
Hello. I don't know why I submitted that biography. I used to work with Europeana previously, but nowadays I'm more focused on industrial data.
Okay, all right. I had you up there on Europeana. I didn't mean to do that. That's, but I saw that in your distant past.
Right. So this presentation will be a very quick run through a variety of uses that our semantic database has been put on. And I'll talk a little bit about commercial deployments, but most of it will be about how just researchers use it, because our database, in addition to having enterprise features, also has a free version. And so it has seen quite a lot of use by a variety of people. This is an outline of the presentation. I'll first describe bibliography in Zotero that I have collected on the topic, and then talk about a few commercial applications, and then about research applications. And the screenshots that I'll be showing from Zotero will also show a little project on GitHub, which includes some keywords that I got from these articles and some visualization of these keywords. I hope the presentations will be made available so you can use these things. So first of all, I won't be describing what are knowledge graphs. I think that everyone who attends this conference knows about this. But I want to emphasize the role of semantic databases in this whole picture, or rather the features that some of the semantic databases have, which make them a preferred platform for working with knowledge graphs. First of all, and of course very important, is that there are certain standards set by the W3C, which includes the representation of data, Sparkle, querying, and this provides interoperability. So you can start your project with one database and then switch on to another database. But in addition to this, there are more features that a lot of the databases implement. RDF star and Sparkle star is a new invention, and it's an answer to the so-called property graphs. So it allows you to attach extra information to any triple. Then, of course, you need some workbench or user interface for administrating the database and for running Sparkle queries. Our database also has connectors to specialized storage systems for different tasks, such as full text search for setting, Mongoose for storing very large amounts of JSON data. Recently, we also added ontology-based data access or virtualization of relational data to query and access as semantic data. Then GeoSparkle, that's of course quite important for everyone who works with geospatial information. We have a history and versioning plugin that allows you to see what was in the database as a certain past date. Then there are programming interfaces. We use RDF4J and actively contribute to this project. We also have a JavaScript API for UI development mostly. And we also have something called the Ontotext platform that provides GraphQL APIs. This is a very popular language now for developing, especially web applications. Then some visualizations and charts. Some of them come from YASGUI, which we also use for Sparkle editing. Others are Google Charts. We also have integrated OntoRefine, the popular tool for manipulating data. And we use that for data cleaning and for RDFization, user-friendly interface for creating triples. We also recently added the JDBC interface, so you can access your data, your knowledge graph, as if it was a set of relational tables. And users find this very useful for working with analytics tools like Tableau or Power BI. I mentioned that we have a free edition. It submits some statistics to us. It's an opt-out scheme. So if you don't want to send statistics, you can do it. But we use that to figure out what plugins people use, what are the sizes of their databases, and so on. And finally, of course, for enterprise use, there's extra features that big companies need. This is a screenshot of the Zotero bibliography, and we have something like, I've collected maybe 170 papers and articles and various other things. These are the topics: benchmarking, business process management, a big variety of topics. If you don't know Zotero, I really recommend it very strongly for any sort of collaborative research. It's great to share knowledge within a research group or even internationally, and also to create your bibliography if you're writing a paper. This is a visualization that I made on this GitHub project. So these are some keywords that are found in the papers that I discovered, mentioning GraphDB. These are the topics in the bibliography. So you see here already mentioned benchmarking, applications to business process management, to cultural heritage. We worked a lot in cultural heritage, but nowadays less so. Then economics and business data and e-commerce, education and science knowledge graphs. I believe that science knowledge graphs is a very important and promising topic. There's a presentation about it, actually just parallel presentation at the same time. And we're working in this area as well. We have 2 active projects in this area. Geospatial data, industrial data in manufacturing, such as sensors, buildings, building automation, electricity. I'm glad that in the upcoming already announced work program for Horizon Europe, there's a lot of development in these topics. Then some general articles about knowledge graphs, articles about legal tech or law, life science, querying and visualization, of course, thesaurus and ontology management, a very important topic. My next few slides will be about it. So the first area of application of semantic knowledge graphs, I would say that the most important ontology and thesaurus management systems are nowadays based on semantic databases and more particularly our GraphDB. We saw several presentations about Workbench, and we're now learning about related systems such as this Caliper by FAO that I think would also be based on GraphDB. The next 3 are commercial, and we at Ontotext have established very strong partnership programs, not just with these companies, but with many other players in the semantic space. So first comes the pool party suite by the Semantic Web Company, and they have a bunch of different modules, quite powerful for various areas. Then Synaptica Graphite. Synaptica is a long-established player in the thesaurus management space, and since about 2 or 3 years, they developed this Graphite server, which is based on GraphDB. MetaFactory is quite an interesting interface for visualization, and for they have a new thing for thesaurus and ontology editing. And I would say that a number of important thesauri are being managed in these systems using GraphDB. AGROVOC and EUROVOC, we heard several times about them. Then the Getty vocabularies by the Getty Trust. These are probably the most important thesauri in the cultural heritage space. They are published using GraphDB. The editing is done using a custom system they have. The Springer Nature thesauri. Then there is thesaurus by the Canadian Heritage Information Network. And I would recommend highly these two sources of thesaurus information. Bartok, it's a register of thesauri and other knowledge organization systems. And the Pool Party Vocabulary Hub is also, even though a bit smaller, but an interesting resource. These here are the various areas in the Vocabulary Hub. These links are live, so if you get hold of this presentation, you can click on them. Now some screenshots. This is Workbench, even though an older version. This is Pool Party. As you see, the interfaces look fairly similar, but there's of course some distinguishing important features between the different systems. Graphite, as you can see, you can also touch graphics. This is some thesaurus of chemistry. Metafactory, this here visualization I rather like. It's a graph visualization of the graph, and it can show both ontology but also instance data. In this case, they have loaded up the Nobel Prizes ontology, and you can edit it and visualize it. Another quite important area of application is semantic publishing and semantic text enrichment. So we have lots of clients in this area, both for mass media like the BBC, and for financial, economical, and scientific technical publishers like the Financial Times, Euromoney, and so on. The Publications Office is also a client by using Workbench, and the UK Parliament also uses our graph database. Then in the life sciences, this is an area that I cannot describe not in a minute, but in an hour. There's very many life science projects that use semantic technologies. I just have listed here our own aggregation of life science data called linked life data. So it's over 10 billion triples, about 1.5 billion entities in the life science domain. It's free data anyone can use. This here is one of our science knowledge graph projects called Tracking of Research Results. And I have visualized it with information from Wikidata using the Metafactory Onto visualization. So you see here an interplay between several semantic data sources and semantic software components. It's a project that was commissioned by the Director General for R&D of the European Commission, and the goal is to analyze all of the different projects in FP7. Here you can see a bunch of projects by Ontotext. Another very interesting project on science knowledge graphs is Scholia. It's based on Wikidata and is a bunch of very nice visualizations of various things. So COVID-19 was mentioned earlier. This here is a topic graph of COVID-19, and these, for example, are the most prolific authors in that topic. Wikidata still doesn't have all the articles in the world, which is probably about 200 million. The Microsoft Academic Graph has a lot of them, whereas Wikidata has about 15 million or 20 million by now. Then a bunch of applications in the financial industry, such as regulatory compliance or fighting stock market manipulation by watching what traders are doing and analyzing patterns of trades. Then something that is very close to my heart nowadays, industrial data. So these here are visualizations from a so-called Industry 4.0 knowledge graph. It's a database of something like 320 standards and their relations and the topics that they cover. And in particular, the German initiative Industry 4.0 platform has developed two standards, AAS, that stands for Admin Shell, and RAMI, for wrapping up various industrial data standards and allowing this to be used with semantic technologies. So there's a visualization where you can see what is in a particular set of standards and then see what domains they cover or topics, and then the individual standards, links between them, and so on. This is an example of using RDF in an industrial setting by the Mondragon Corporation. It's a huge conglomerate of 268 companies. And as you see here, they use our GraphDB for a use case with the admin shell, administration shell, and connecting robotic data with production data. The next domain is electricity. There is a series of standards by the IEC called CIM, Common Information Model. So this here is a diagram of typical business functions in the electrical domain, as well as infrastructure and technical data. And a lot of these are covered by this series of standards about CIM. It's very important in Europe because of the single market for electricity, and there will be more and more development in these areas. They're also covered in Horizon Europe. Digital humanities is the next topic. We participated in a project called European Holocaust Research Infrastructure. So you see a couple of screenshots from this project here and some links to articles about it. The next one I mentioned, the Getty vocabularies, again, some publications about it. This here is a set of sample queries, about 110 sample queries that are described, why, it's really a tutorial, why the query looks like this, alternatives and so on. And then when you click here, you get the query and you can execute it from the upper box or edit it. Lexicography, I was interested to learn recently that our database has been used in a LexBIB database for meta-lexicographical information. It's part of Alexiev, this big European research infrastructure on lexicography. And again, if you look here, you see things from the science knowledge graph domain. ORCID is a very big and important database of researchers. Something like 7 or 8 million researchers are registered here. Crossref is the biggest issuer of DOI paper identifiers. Open Citation is a project to represent citations between articles in a semantic way and so on. One more about cultural heritage. It is this nomenclature for museum cataloging by the Canadian Heritage Information Network, as well as its representation within Wikidata. So these two things on the right is a very nice tool in Wikidata called Mix and Match. It's for cross-linking. So Wikidata nowadays is a very important hub of cross-linking of thesauri in all kinds of areas. Geographic data is the next domain. We recently did something for the US Air Force, some like proof of concept thing. And here is a query to show various ports. And over here on the right, there's a software called Sextant from some people in Greece for visualizing geographical data. There is an extension of YASGUI to work with geographical data, both to display and to help you create the queries. Company data. This is an article that we recently did for the Semantic Web Journal based on a project called EU Business Graph. So you see here the basic model of capturing basic firmographic information. And we did 2 more papers on, one is on recommending investments based on what companies you're interested in. And this one is on automatic classification of companies into industries. And then semantic search and news processing. So it's a website that we have called News on the Web, or Now. And you can search by entities. And you see here the end, this is semantic concept extraction. So it extracts both mentions of organizations, persons, and locations, but also other things like roles of persons in organizations, key phrases, and so on. This is another demonstrator that we have for ranking of companies by popularity. In this case, automotive companies in Germany. Okay, that's the quick run, all the time that I had. Now let's see if we have some questions in the chat.
Yes, we sure do, Vladimir. Let's see here. Stand by. Oops, wait a minute. I do have one. Hold on, stand by.
Linked open vocabularies. Yeah, it's a very important resource for looking for ontologies. I would add another one called archivo.dbpedia.org, I believe. So LOV has information about maybe 500 ontologies. Archivo has 1,200 or something like this.
Okay, hold on. Here we go. It looks like quite a comprehensive gathering of projects and information sources. Other than Wikidata, Wikimedia, do you see any other way to aggregate elements from all of those?
Well, Wikidata and DBpedia are the two most important encyclopedic open data sets. Wikidata is nowadays more important because it has more stuff and it has a lot more people working behind it, so the quality of data is better. But in companies and in various other collaborations, there are much bigger data sets. For example, in life science, I mentioned LLD, linked life science data. There is also Open Facts. It's a European consortium on similar topics. There's a lot of data in particular domains and in enterprises that is quite bigger than the encyclopedic databases.
Okay, very good. Vladimir, thank you so much. I'm so sorry we ran out of time here.
Thanks.
Because there are other questions, but that was great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Vladimir Alexiev, co-founder and chief data architect at Sirma.ai. So now we want to move to a workshop, first with some presentations, then a 20-minute breakout, and then 10 minutes back together again to talk. So this is called Cross-organisational Collaborative Activities Around Open Source Semantic Applications to Better Maintain, Link, Visualize, and Disseminate Semantic Assets. So this is the workshop, and there will be 4 speakers. I did talk about Caterina already, Caterina Caracciolo, who's data exchange specialist at the FAO, Luca Gramaglia of Eurostat, Anniko Grenkser of the Publications Office of the EU, documentalist, team leader, maintenance of the AGROVOC multilingual thesaurus and its alignment with other controlled vocabularies, and Denis de Chandon, also of the Publications Office at the EU, head of the metadata and reference data sector. I guess, Caterina, would you like to begin? And each of you has 10 minutes, and I'll let you know when you have to wrap up.
I think Denis wants to start.
Exactly.
Oh,
Thank you, Caterina. Thank you, Chris.
Ah, d'accord,
Yeah,
pardon. Oui, oui. Ça va, c'est bon.
No, it's fine. Don't worry. It will be very fun. We just want to tell participants first that we are very happy to be here, and we are from different organizations, but that we work together on different projects and in different ways. This is what we want to explain, and after that, we'll go for brainstorming sessions in groups. And now I give the floor to Caterina. Thank you.
Oh, I forgot to mention Anthony Camilleri at the European Commission. Okay, please, Caterina.
Caterina, you are on mute.
And those of you watching, please send in your questions. We'll try to deal with them at least either during this workshop or in the next session. But please feel free to make comments and questions throughout in the chat on your screen.
Okay, thank you. You should hear me now. It's audio is on. Okay.
That's great, Caterina.
This session is about collaboration. I highlighted, I picked up 3 points where I see room for collaboration. Sorry. Okay. So I briefly, a brief introduction to modeling. We went to the models that say this point finalized up to now with this iterative cycle of generating an RDF and getting the validation from our colleagues statisticians and classification experts. For the RDF, okay, so I think you have heard also from my previous talk about SCOS and XCOS. So these are specifications for constructs, say entities, properties, and so on for RDF. So SCOS in particular gives the backbone, so especially the hierarchy, classification, the modeling for classification entries, so the terminological and the coding information, and also for correspondences. XCOS, called matches in SCOS jargon. XCOS talks about some specific information like levels specific to classifications, levels and corresponding. Okay, so far so good. These are DDI SCOS. But of course there are, they do not, DDI SCOS and the XCOS do not really say everything about how to model a classification. So some decisions have made, we made some decisions in Caliper. For example, one decision was to adopt an approach to double modeling. So for example, correspondences are modeled both as SCOS and as XCOS. What's the advantage is that the SCOS is compatible with most tools, so while XCOS is more refined, fine-grained, but might not be understood by all tools. Labels also, SCOS has labels, properties for labels, but we might also need like more specific labels, for example, for NOx, for the names of countries and territories. Then we apply the definition of subset for sake of reduction of duplication. We use collections, cost collection, to group together entities that are relevant to a specific domain. And another subset applied was to group together entities that are that have the same author, like custodian in common. That's the case of CPC. 2.1 has an extension dedicated to agriculture, so we divided the two things in a concept scheme. And then, of course, but it's common, but the versioning, history, and metadata information we combined in Caliper. There are specific cases which I'm happy to discuss in questions. But the point here is that these are decisions that make sense, of course, but this is definitely an area for collaboration, meaning that coming to a common shared approach to modeling, to solving the same problems, it's the way to go for this. Functionalities, a quick look. You don't need to read everything, but just to look at the part on dissemination functionalities, the browsing, search, and download, and URIs. These are all served by tools, open source, as I said, tools natively supporting RDF and related technologies. They behave in different ways depending on they have different features. For example, for correspondences, I'll go untouch correspondences later. And the editing platform mentioned already several times, Workbench. Correspondences, for example, this is a screenshot from the PMKI, the read-only view of Workbench, of the editing platform. This is already quite nice visualization, but certainly, I mean, it puts together all the alignments, all the correspondences available, and then you have also a look in detail. Certainly something that by means of use, something can be improved there. And also something can be done to this interface, of which I think it's very good already. But in terms of tools and functionalities, this is also an obvious part to work on collaboratively. Correspondences again, Eurostat provided us with correspondences between CPC and CPA, so classification of products where the CPA is a European version, so to speak, and they're already included in Caliper, and you can query. And this is a screenshot that shows you what you can do there. And the global identifier. So we use URIs in a lot style. These are identifiers that resolve, meaning that if you click to that URL, to that string, you get something for human, like in your browser. But if you are a machine, you get something else, something that can be consumed. Now, there are a few critical points about using URIs only. One part is the stability of URIs. It was a question by Vladimir. Yes, definitely these URIs have to change into something. So in this subclass FAO Uniroma, you can see the project stamp. These were used, made for tests. But they will become something else. But still, in any case, there is a problem of stabilities with URIs. It's things change, and URI may change as well. So that's something to plan and think of early on. And also, there is something about the length and complexity of these URIs. Here you can see like the two parts identified in this ICC in the URL there on the screen. Generally speaking, there is a namespace, like a general part and the local part, but it's not so obvious to identify which is which, and there are different conventions adopted there. And it's also long and complex. So maybe we can think in the context of a statistical classifications, also of coupling the URI mechanism with other types of mechanism. For example, URN, uniform resource name, a type of approach, like a ISBN. I think it's very common. Everybody will recognize this acronym. So a mechanism for having short short names, practical for use, but also with a strong mechanism behind for resolution and stability.
Caterina, mi dispiace, but you have less than 2 minutes left, please.
I'm perfectly in time. So this is a recap of the point for collaboration. I see room for collaboration in modeling, share models, best practices, guidelines, eventually a version, upgraded version of XCOS, for example. Functionalities, improving tools for the functionalities that are needed peculiar to this area, and global identifiers. So we need a general policy for URIs for statistical classification, possibly coupling with other mechanisms. And this is, it's important that it's a collaborative effort. We might have 30 seconds for questions. Can you hear me? Have I lost you?
Sorry about that. Sorry. Yeah. No, we do have to move on, Caterina. Thank you so much. Grazie molto. And let me move on to Luca Gramaglia of Eurostat. Luca, do you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, so I will continue from where Caterina left off. My name is Luca Gramaglia. I work for Eurostat, and in this panel or session on cross-organizational collaboration on semantic technologies and linked open data, my role is to be the neophyte, the person who started not knowing too much about linked open data and semantic technologies, tried to leverage partnerships to be able to do something, manage to do something, maybe learn something in between, and also learned a bit some of the difficulties in setting up these kind of sustainable partnerships. So over the next few minutes, I will try to share with you our journey. Maybe some of you who are also in the neophyte position can identify with me. And then maybe we can have, during the breakout session, a discussion on how to really have effective partnerships on semantic technologies. Before I start with our journey, I think I need to present a bit what our interest was and why we were interested in linked open data. So we, as Eurostat, we're a statistical organization. We maintain, as a statistical organization, lots of classifications, like the ones that Caterina was talking about. And we have lots of experience in maintaining and managing these classifications, statistical classifications. We also have a lot of experience in maintaining and managing, from the content point of view, correspondences between these classifications, which link different classifications together. And all of our classifications are available in a platform, which is called Ramon. It's linked on the slide, and can be downloaded in several different formats, some more machine readable, some less machine readable. And our dream as a statistical office would be to be able to set up an international web or network or classifications, because you see classifications exist at European level, but they exist also at global level, they exist at national level, they're all interlinked. And frankly, if you're working on the topic, trying to find the links and managing them and making use of them, it's not very easy. So, you know, we're talking about linking classification, we're talking about the 21st century. I think linked open data seem and semantic technology seemed like the way to go. And so we wanted to try out, can we publish our classification as linked open data, and can we link them usefully to some other classifications? So where did we start? Well, when we first got the idea, our main problem was our capability gap. We have a high level of knowledge and experience in the management of classifications from the content point of view. We also have experience in modeling of classifications with certain standards, but we don't have much experience with linked open data, with ontologies for linked open data, and definitely in terms of technology stack, we were nowhere. So we had high capabilities in terms of classification management, but basically no knowledge for linked open data and ontologies or technologies. So what did we do? Well, we tried to find some help. That's what you try to do when you're in this situation. And we tried to partner or find some help from people who had the knowledge and possibly willingness to help us. And so we approached our colleagues at the Publications Office, who are, I think, in the framework of the European Commission, probably the most knowledgeable about the management and publication of controlled vocabulary as linked open data, and who have a technology stack available for that. And we also partner with some of our statistical partners who had similar objectives and projects. So some national statistical offices in the European statistical system, and our colleagues also from FAO, like Caterina, who were doing similar things. And so we tried to set up some partnerships with them, and we're very thankful to our colleagues for helping us out. Publications Office helped us both from the point of view of modeling the classifications using commonly used ontologies, and from the point of view of the technology stack, basically provided the technology stack that we used. And our other partners like FAO also helped us a lot in terms of the modeling. What are the results? Well, we were able, after a bit of work and lots of help from our colleagues, to expose a certain subset of our classifications using linked open data. I'm not going to go through the modeling aspects because I think Caterina covered quite well. We used the SCOS, XCOS ontologies. We also exposed some geographic classification, for which we used other ontologies that are specific to geography. But overall, I think Caterina gave a good overview of this. In terms of technological stack, we reused what the colleagues at the Publication Office made available to us, Workbench, to map and prepare and edit the information using the correct ontologies, and the EU Vocabularies website for exposing them to the end users. The end result is visible here. We were able to publish 2 classifications for products, one for geographical regions, including their geometry, and one correspondence table. Caterina mentioned it. We were able, since she was also publishing classifications, we're able to have this correspondence table, have a first link in this kind of web of classifications that we're dreaming about. You have all the information here on what we were able to publish and in which formats. I don't need to go into too much detail there, I believe. So that's pretty much what we accomplished. What is left? Where are we now and what is left? Well, during the course of this, and thanks to the help of our partners, we were able to bridge a bit the capability gap that we had, though not fully. So we started from almost zero. I think now there may be a bit of Dunning-Kruger effect here. Maybe I'm overestimating our own capabilities, but I think we're more comfortable with modeling objects using linked open data ontologies. I think we have definitely increased our capability in that regard. When it comes to technology stack, however, since we reused what the publication office made available to us, we're still very dependent on help and on support. So from that point of view, maybe our own capabilities have not grown too much, which for the time being, given the scope of what we're doing, could be fine, but it's something that we'll need to consider if we want to go further. If we want to also make sure that the partnerships that we have built remain sustainable for all parties involved. And in terms of open questions and challenges, Caterina mentioned it as well. There are definitely some open questions regarding modeling that will need to be tackled with other partners interested in publishing classifications. The modeling of correspondence tables with SCOS or XCOS ontologies or both is one aspect where collaboration and a common agreement would be needed. Also, the aspect of how to properly tackle the versioning of classification. Usually classification is different version, and that's something that would still need to be explored in a common fashion. But for us, if you remember our dream, our slide with the web of classifications and the network, well, that network only exists if we're able to bring enough people on board with the idea, enough people replicating what we did with the help of our colleagues and what Caterina and her colleagues did as well. And here, to me, the main difficulties are on governance and how to structure the governance and the collaboration around this. We presented the work that we did and that we presented here in a few fora with our national statistical institutes, partners in the national statistical institutes. There was surprisingly a lot of interest around it, but often what comes with interest then is people asking for support, people asking, how can I do this? How can I follow what you did? And frankly, I have to say, we're still a neophyte. We still have to see what could be a good collaboration model between all of us to really build this common network. And that's something that I think we're going to need to dedicate some efforts on if we really want to build it. And in general as well, in terms of collaboration, there have been some organizations at national level as well that have done things similar to what we did, and also things similar to what Caterina did. But once again, in parallel, without really great forms of coordination or of fora to discuss together and solve the different modeling and technological issues that come up. And so the risk here is we end up having parallel work streams, which end up not converging as parallel lines tend not to do. So this is pretty much our journey, what we were able to do, thanks to the partnership that we established, also the limits that we see in what we've done so far. And yeah, I hope that during the breakout session, we'll be able to discuss a bit how we can encourage and foster these kind of very productive partnerships and make them sustainable over the long term.
That's great, Luca Gramaglia of Eurostat. Thank you so much. We want to try to stay on time, so we're going to move quickly to the other presentations. They will be divided in two, I'm told, 5 minutes for Denis and Aniko and 5 minutes for Anthony. Can you hold to that time? I don't know. Let's see how that works. Denis, I guess you go first, right?
Yes, yes, I will be starting. So I think you see my screen now. So I move to the slideshow. So thank you, Luca, because you make my introduction shorter. So we work together, and this is what we want to explain. Okay, so if you don't know the Publications Office, we put a few words on our mandate on the left of the screen. So we publish and disseminate digital and paper versions of documents of the EU institutions and agencies. It's very short. Then on the right, you see the top of the iceberg, so as to say, when we work with colleagues internally, but as well externally and beyond. So we ensure the maintenance of controlled vocabularies. And to do that, we use a tool called Workbench. And in doing this, we have some time, or quite often actually, to convert data and transform files. Then coming back to EU vocabularies mentioned by Luca, we disseminate the results of our work. For that, we import everything in our big semantic repository, the Cellar, and we use two platforms to disseminate to the world, so the EU vocabularies website and the Open Data Portal. And finally, we provide support and consultancies to users, meaning in terms of semantic technologies and standards and their use, in the maintenance and creation of control vocabularies, and of course in the use of Workbench. Back to Anita.
Then if I might interrupt you, your screen is, you don't have the full screen.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So please,
Sorry.
it's on presentation mode, I fear.
Okay, so I will say, switch to another screen. Sorry for that. I was not aware. For me, it's fine here. Sorry. Not a great start. So stop sharing. Yeah. That doesn't show my side, I see. Okay. This was only one slide. So share. This one, tell me if it's better then when you see it. Do you have a better view now?
Yes, now it's fine.
Okay,
Is it
so on
fine
the
for
left,
everyone?
what we do
Yeah,
on the
good.
right,
Thank you,
the services you provide, and now you have the floor, Nico. Sorry for that.
Thank you very much. So as Denis mentioned, we have some tools that we are sharing with institutions. Workbench was already presented yesterday at the workshop provided by the developers from the University of Tor Vergata. And the Publications Office is leading the development of the tool in collaboration with the ISA Square program of the European Commission and with InfEurope. So this tool is shared internally with colleagues in the Publications Office internally. Some teams and units are also using it. And we also provide the corporate access to other EU institutions, such as Eurostat, as Luca already explained, but also to EU member states and international organizations. It's a collaborative platform with a lot of collaborative features, and we are going to have a short demo also later on this afternoon in the other track. So we can move on to the next slide. Yeah. So we also provide some common platforms for the dissemination and the maintenance of the controlled vocabularies. The EU vocabularies platform is open for the dissemination. So we are publishing controlled vocabularies, models, schemas, ontologies, thesauri, taxonomies, all kinds of assets there. We also have a business collections page where we provide also a different view and editorial content for our datasets. And the datasets are available also for browsing, for downloading, and for the search. All this data is available in the semantic repository of the Cellar. Luca also mentioned this. So you can access the Sparkle endpoint and get the data directly from there. Additionally, we also publish them on different other portals, such as Open Data Portal, for example, bartok.org, JoinUp. So we have also other services additionally that we can provide. So this is all in the view of linked open data to make these assets available. So from the maintenance, we move on to the openness to the public. Then we can move on to the next slide. Okay, so this is an overview of the services provided. We start from the maintenance. So we get the data, And so we get the data, we convert it, if necessary, to semantic formats. We are using the international standards from WSTC, SCOS, XCOS as well, and RDF-based datasets. Then we maintain them in Workbench, so we offer the hosting of the vocabularies in the tool. We manage the user accounts as well. Additionally, we can also help the users to have some custom SPARQL queries and the alignment of vocabularies. We need to mention also the PMKI platform, which is an additional service that we offer for the alignment of the vocabularies. Then we have some support services as well that are covering mainly the data modeling and trainings. So from the creation and the maintenance of the vocabularies, we can offer also support and advisory for semantic technologies and data modeling. And we can also provide some training sessions to the interested stakeholders about the use of Workbench, PMKI, or SCOS, RDF, SPARQL, so other semantic technologies. And then finally, in the dissemination, that's the third core service that we provide from the assignment of persistent URIs, so identifiers. Then we can also help in the creation of metadata profiles according to standards, for example, DCAT profiles. And finally, the already mentioned dissemination on the different portals, Stellar, EU Vocabularies, Open Data Portal, JoinUp, and so on. And I give the floor back to Denis.
Thank you. So very short now. The partners. So everything is about collaborating. So you see, we do all that around EU vocabularies and Workbench in our team. And we do that for colleagues at the Publications Office, but as well in EU institutions and agencies. And beyond, as I said before, we have projects with EU member states or public services there, with some international organizations. And everything we do is shared as well on the ISO² and JoinUp platform on the web. And talking about collaborations, we can move to Anthony now. Can I stop sharing for you, Anthony?
Yeah, while Anthony is changing the screen, I would just make the connection between our services and Anthony. So Anthony from DG Employment, he's managing the Europass data learning model, and actually he will explain further our collaboration. We are finally disseminating it on EU vocabularies, but we are also offering the access to Workbench. So it's a nice use case of our collaborations as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll try and be fast to keep to time. The Europass or the new version of Europass launched last July as a result of the Europass decision of the European Commission. And the aim of this platform is quite simply to be a central portal for any European citizen to be able to manage their employment and education pathway across their lifetime. Europass used to be a, let's say, Word document, which you fill in and submit to employers. It has been upgraded into a fully functioning employment and learning platform. And because it was already a well-known European brand, to some extent, we had a user base built in. Since our launch in July, we have been having approximately 2 million visits per month and over 200,000 users registering per month. This means we are currently at something in the region of 1.7 million registered users. The point of this is to say that we came to the Publications Office with a really simple and low volume use case, and we also asked them for help to do this very, very quickly. A couple of more things about the new Europass is that the Europass is very wide-ranging. It consists of a portfolio tool, which allows people to build their CVs. It includes a set of self-assessment tools, which are intended for citizens to evaluate, for example, their digital skills. It allows them to plan their career, mobility, and learning goals. And also it collects a set of information tools linked to jobs and courses. Our main use case, at least at start, for collaboration with the Publications Office was use in Europass digital credentials. And digital credentials are simply enough a method for digitizing any kind of educational credential, be it diplomas, certificates of participation, university degrees, diploma supplements, etc., etc. Digital credentials have a couple of special use cases. We wanted to create a data model that can record any type of diploma issued by any type of educational institution in any member state across Europe. They should be able to be issued by different software platforms operated by higher education institutions, student information system vendors, etc., etc. And the credentials that are produced need to have lifetimes of 30 to 40 years, which is very, very unique in digital worlds. So the first step of doing this was to actually create a data model that can capture education and training concepts in Europe. And this we called the Europass learning model. The Europass learning model is a model that describes education achievements at a very, very high level. And we give the ability to member states to then create application profiles of this model, so that rather than speaking about a generic education and training degree, you could say that this is the model for a vocational qualification in Baden-Württemberg, or this is the model for a higher education qualification in Malta. So from a modeling perspective, what you end up with is a master schema, which is shared by all credentials, and a set of, let's say, sub-schemas or application profiles for these specializations. So the problem we came to the publications office with was that we need a place to, first of all, store these schemas. We're going to need to version these schemas over a number of decades. And every credential that is issued to any citizen across Europe will have to be validated against the right schema of the right version that was valid on the day of issue of that credential. So the help that we got here is that while our team was, let's say, strong on modeling and strong on building interfaces, versioning and semantic technologies and, let's say, ontology storage is something that we really didn't know much about. And the publications office helped us put in an entire set of training processes and services to allow us to actually meet this use case. The second part of this was authority tables. Because the learning model is very, very vast in its scope, we use authority tables very, very frequently in the model. So we use 24 different authority tables across the Europass learning model. All of those are also translated into 27 different languages, and all of those also need to be kept up to date, versioned, etc., etc. So same thing here, the publications office provided us with training on how to use Workbench, suggestions on the best way to model certain concepts, as well as with the tools to actually publish these authority tables and to make them available to our applications. It's useful to mention here that we actually use 3 different types of authority tables within our system. So the most basic are the EC authority tables that are already published, things like the list of countries, the list of languages, the list of genders, etc., etc. Secondly, we have what we call house lists. And house lists are the lists we developed within Europass for our own use. For example, a list of Europass credential types. The really interesting one is the middle type, though, which is managed lists. For the purposes of our application, we found that this authority list service was extremely useful and saved us a lot of time in building applications. So in some cases, we chose to manage lists created by other entities because it would facilitate our application implementation. So one example of this would be that the UNESCO list of ISCED F codes had not been published as open data up until now. We did a quick check of the licenses to make sure that we were allowed to do it. And then we took it upon ourselves to, let's say, manage the list published by UNESCO within the EU Open Data Portal, because it just is something that we needed to make available to our applications. And this was a very, very efficient way of doing it. So apart from publishing our own lists, we ended up publishing other people's lists as well on it. I'll stop there. Be happy to answer any questions about the implementation, but I think I managed to stick to time.
Great. Okay, Anthony, thank you so much. I'm Anthony Camilleri from the European Commission. We are running about 10 minutes behind right at this point. Can we go now quickly to the breakout sessions, which are to last 20 minutes, and everything's supposed to end at 16:20, right?
Yes.
Actually, I would say maybe 5 minutes for the, 15 minutes for the breakout sessions,
Okay.
and then 5 minutes at the end to wrap up.
Okay, so let's do that. And so I guess, Leo, someone will be setting up the breakout sessions and moving people to those breakout sessions, right? That's my understanding.
Correct.
Okay, so everybody stand by and you will be sent into a breakout session. Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. If you can hear me, I hope I'm understanding that somebody is supposed to take the lead on the breakout session, but I am not sure who does this. As we wait, here, I guess it's Anthony, right? Anthony, you're going to take the lead on this?
Actually, I believe it was Amiko who's going to take the lead on this. But,
okay. All right, then we will stand by. Thanks so much for your presentation. I think I had.
Otherwise, just give me a few seconds and I
Sure.
think I can.
I think I might have had a question for you. Hang on a second. Actually, I don't. So we will stand by. As we're waiting, Anthony, is there anything you would, or anybody else would like to comment on maybe on Anthony's presentation? Or any of the other presentations, as long as we're standing by.
This is Leah. I didn't know about the XSOS standard, so I was surprised to see that, and we'll definitely keep on top of that.
Great. Anyone else would like to comment?
Hello, Anthony.
Hello, I just clicked quickly. I think we're missing a moderator in this room. Everyone seems to have gone into breakout session 2.
I'll ask them to join in this room then.
Thank you.
Anthony, I didn't give you time to answer any questions, but is there any
Yes,
anything else you'd like to add to your?
So, I mean, I should warn you, I am not a linked open data expert. I feel a little bit out of depth at this conference, but that's one of the reasons, let's say, we found it very, very interesting to present here in terms of collaboration, because quite honestly, we basically came to the publications office, said we have this set of use cases, we need to launch in 2 months. Can you give us the support necessary to get this done? It was quite a complex complex use case, and basically the publications office, through the set of services that they were discussing, were able to basically give us support in, let's say, creating the lists, publishing the lists, versioning the lists, and making them available through the Sparkles. My understanding of the point of this workshop was to then actually talk about opportunities for collaboration, etc. But at least from my side, I'm a user of the publications office services, so I can't really speak for them.
Okay, right.
So this is Leah.
Oh, Leah.
I'm just curious then, from your perspective, is there anything like you would elaborate on, just like lessons learned from a linked data user, as you said, a linked data person as yourself, like coming into it, just like, because I work with a lot of people. I'm a librarian, so I'm working with people who aren't necessarily versed in the language of these issues. So is there something that like they were able to explain to you that made it easier to collaborate with them when you were first like meeting with them?
Well, so from our perspective, what I think was very, very useful was that, let's say, they took it in stages. So we were using Workbench to, let's say, prepare the data and so on and so forth. But actually, our very, very first upload, we did via Excel. And we just sent them Excel lists, and they, let's say, uploaded the concepts into Workbench for us. On the second round, they, let's say, helped us edit Workbench a little bit more. On the way, we had tutorials about the difference of, let's say, permanent URIs, about naming conventions, about why you'd want to have, let's say, URIs of a certain structure, etc. And then, let's say, over a period of, I would say, 6 months, they transitioned us from, let's say, being just people sending Excel sheets to actually managing the lists ourselves, choosing the right way to structure them, etc. So I would say the lessons learned on our side would really be that taking this step-by-step approach of, let's say, being able to work with them and slowly ratcheting up the difficulty worked very, very well. The other thing which was very useful is that one thing which they insisted on was that there is a single point of contact on our team. As you might imagine, a project like Europass has about 30 or 40 developers, business analysts, policy people, publications, etc. And they're like, listen, if we're going to do this properly, we need to have one person who's, let's say, the main contact with the publication office, who we can train a little bit as we go, and who can, let's say, become your resident expert on linked open data. So we actually did get somebody from our team who basically became our main point of contact for all of these issues. And ever since then, let's say, we have, if you will, a pipeline to get this stuff published quickly.
I see, that makes sense. And then I'm guessing that resident expert then is like responsible for like maintaining any standard operating procedures like for your team and anything like that, I'm assuming.
Yes, exactly. So the commission, being the commission that standard operating procedures can take some time, but basically we have now internally authored a set of standard operating procedures. We passed it by the publications office and asked for, let's say, input and improvements on what we could do, and now, let's say, that's going up the hierarchy to become a policy document.
I see. Thank you. We can't hear you.
Thanks for participating, Leah. Thanks for that. For that, I see there's a time difference for you, I guess, right? You're on stateside.
Yes, I'm in Washington, D.C. Well, just outside of Washington, D.C. I'm at the Government Accountability Office. So.
Yes. Right. And why is this interesting to you to be tapping in from stateside?
Well, I am responsible for our agency's taxonomy program, and I'm also working on a project with an internal team on developing an ontology describing the nature of fraud in the federal government. So both those activities and just my general interest in this area has brought me to this conference. And on the pragmatic side of just lack of travel and lack of conferences and seeing this, I just had to tap into it. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And in the last couple of days, I did hear talk about how the importance of transparency, how data helps in transparency, obviously, and in doing so can help to prevent or to fight fraud in government. So I thought that was an interesting aspect. Anyone else like to jump in here as we have a number of us here? Dana, Thomas, Marcos, Eric, Dragoslava. Is there something like that you would like to add to the mix, actually, over these last 3 days of discussions? Anthony, do you think that I mean, between DGs, between the Director Generals within the Commission, is there room to improve the exchange of data between the DGs?
So I can say this, by the way, as a consultant who works for the Commission, not having a Commission label on myself. To be honest, working between different DGs isn't always the easiest thing. Once, let's say, we discovered this service from the Publications Office, it actually worked remarkably smoothly. The main criticism I would have is that it's actually hard to know they exist at all. So if you are launching a software project within the European Commission, you need to dive quite deep in the Commission resources and websites to, let's say, be able to discover that this set of services is even available to you. If you do, and if you find the contact, then you're on the good path. But I mean, for our project, we had a team of about 8 business analysts, let's say, checking every Commission standard there is. And it still took us several months before we really realized that this was available to us. So, and this was actually the reason we asked to speak at the conference, that we said, listen, there needs to be more awareness that this is available.
Interaction. Yeah, absolutely. I see you're connected, Mihai.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I was attached to another session, but I saw that you already started discussion. I was trying to catch up what was happening.
Sure. You know, it's just sort of free form. We're talking about different things. If there's something you want to add to the mix, or maybe some reaction to Anthony's presentation or any of the other presentations today.
Well, normally it should have been a list of questions to be put here. I was not let's say, aware to prepare for this. But anyway, I'm from Publication Office, and that, as you heard during the presentation of my colleagues, we are really into, let's say, providing services related with this kind of aspects. It's kind of strange, but we are kind of EU organization that's providing real services to other organizations. In the past, we were known as just the printer of the official journal, but now we are doing a lot more for several years. So if there are any questions related with this, you know, we are maintaining AGROVOC. We are maintaining over 120 authority tables regarding everything like countries, languages, I don't know, corporate bodies. If you need a list of something, you can be sure that we already have it.
Mihai, I will leave this with you because I have to go back to the main room, okay?
Yeah,
so
no
I will
worries,
let you leave you as moderator. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Mihai. This is Leah Dickerson. Thanks for joining us. I just wanted to quickly say, I was curious about the ontologies on the publications website. I noticed that like the vocabularies are searchable, but the ontologies are not. Like, I guess, so is it the intention to download and kind of work with them like offline, and then like I was just curious about that setup.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's clear for me. It was also, let's say, I'm not there for a long time, So I also thought about the possibility to visualize ontologies, but you know, ontologies are a different kind of animal than vocabulary. So vocabulary, you can see it just as a list, a table, or a tree. An ontology is kind of different because you can have different properties there, a lot of other properties and relations between them. So probably there could be a mechanism to show them, but we didn't found already, let's say, a proper visualization method. We are thinking about it, be sure of it. But anyway, for doing this, you could use some desktop application, things like Protege, for example, if you know it. It's a free tool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I love using Web Protege, especially for collaboration, but in Protege for just more in-depth work. I would just, again, I hope I don't mind, people don't mind me just talking. I'm a librarian at the Government Accountability Office. And part of my work involves taxonomies, and I am responsible for our agency's taxonomy program, but I also am working on an ontology to describe the nature of federal fraud in the US government. So I was looking at your site to just look at whatever like what vocabularies and ontologies you have, just curious to see if there are any holes I could plug into you know, what we're working on. So, but yeah, I enjoyed looking at your site. You have a lot of great content. And
you know, regarding fraud detection and things like this, you know, there are also
So welcome back, everybody, as you are joining back into the main room. Duni, you wanted to have a couple of final words, I believe. We have about 2.5 minutes left, about 3 minutes left.
Okay, so I will try to report again. We will collect all the input you produce in each group, actually. You don't have the time to go into all remarks or questions you might have now. But we will build a report, we will share it on the ENDORSE website and the summary of the conference as well, so that you can have access to it and see where we're going to. And please note that we will propose at the end of ENDORSE to continue talking, working, sharing what we have. So working together. So it's only a first step today with a small group all together here, 33 colleagues. It's fine, but we need to go to look forward. And it will be coming very soon. Aniko?
No, indeed. So I just wanted to thank everyone in our sessions, but I would like to give the floor also to Luca and Caterina and Anthony, what were the main outcomes of their groups, what you have discussed. We have maybe 1 and 1 minute each that you can highlight some key messages that you're going to take away from these sessions. Maybe Caterina, Luca, Anthony.
My turn, I think. Okay, a small group, different experiences, positive and negative, well, hard work on collaboration. General agreement that collaboration, especially on vocabulary, is something hard. My summary would be that it's a bit of science and a bit of art, because and also a bit of luck, because what it turns out is that even when there is a structure, I mean, the structure has to be well thought, organizing a core group of drivers committed to the task. and also the part of science, of art, and the dissemination, so that to have the buy-in. The luck is about the environment where you work, I guess. The experience from private sector that we had in the group is says that it's not so straightforward. Not sure whether they had already institutional commitment on collaboration.
Okay, thank you. And Luca, maybe a few highlights. Thank you very much, Caterina, from your group.
Actually, Caterina and I ended up in the same group.
Oh, sorry.
So
Okay.
summary. I think Anthony was.
Okay. Anthony, were you in the third group? No. Okay. So I think if Johnny, maybe we can say a few closing words because the time is over.
No, exactly. So we all saw the need of working together, where the benefits are, where some difficulties are, maybe not drawbacks, but difficulties to convince, to get support, and to achieve something together, because our agendas are quite full. So as to say, but we can do it. We show it in this workshop to you through our presentations, and we hope that we will continue this way, and that we could convince you working with us too, possibly in the future.
And thank you very much, everyone, for participating and for your remarks, for your comments, and for your questions as well.
Indeed. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Aniko, Denis, Luca, Caterina, Anthony. Thank you so much. Let us take a break, just like a 5-minute break. We'll be back with you at 16:25 CET for the final part of our talk here on track 2. We will come back on interoperability of semantically enabled web services on the web of things, WOT. So see you in a couple of minutes. So welcome back, everyone. Hope you had a nice quick break there. Got a drink? Got a coffee or something? Let's start our last part of track 2 for day 3 here on ENDORSE 2021. This is about interoperability of semantically enabled web services on the web of things, the challenges and prospects. Now, when I was researching for this, I looked into, I guess most of you probably know what this is, but I always think of IoT, right? Creating a network of objects, things, people, systems, and applications. The web of things tries to integrate them to the web. However, the scope of IoT applications is broader and includes systems that are not accessible through the web. So that's the difference. Anyway, I guess Madi Benara, you would have a bit more enlightenment on that. You're at the École des Mines de Saint-Étienne. You're assistant associate professor. You work mainly on the problems of semantic interoperability and semantic data validation. So you're the go-to person on this. For those watching, please, you can send your questions in through Slido. That's slido.com or slide.do, and go to the event called hashtag Endorse 2021, the same way you'll be tweeting if you have anything to tweet. And this will be recorded for future viewing, as all the other events through these 4 days have been, will be. Madi, please.
Yes, hello, Christopher. So,
bonjour.
Bonjour. I will start in a moment. Let's see, where's my presentation? There. So
okay, I am advised you can send your questions through to the chat. You see the chat at the bottom of your screen. That would be the way to do it. That is preferable to send it through the chat. Okay, please.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am.
Sorry, Maddie, your presentation is not on full screen. Just click on parameters, the affiche, that one.
This one.
At the top.
Yes.
Parameters, the affichage.
Is that you, Leo?
Yes, this is Leo.
Yeah, can you confirm to me that it is the questions to the chat or to Slido at this point?
You can have it on the here on the chat.
On the chat, okay.
And also on the Slido, I mean.
And on Slido, okay, which will be funneled over to me. Okay, thank you.
So is it in full screen now?
Not yet.
Really? I'm sorry about this, but
So
I have here planning.
the second option at the top.
Yeah, the second option at the top. So there's sharing. Or there's yeah, like it's.
Yeah, that one. Click on it.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm really sorry.
Okay.
So now you have my full screen.
Yes, indeed.
Good. Sorry about that. So hello everyone. My name is Mahdi Bennara. I am a postdoctoral researcher at École des Mines of Saint-Étienne. Today I have the pleasure to present to you my work about interoperability of services in the Web of Things using recent developments in the semantic web world. This is an ongoing work, so ideas that I discuss here are still work in progress. I'm going to start by highlighting some observations about the current state of the Internet of Things as well as the Web of Things. The Internet of Things is currently gaining traction in a lot of domains such as industry, smart cities, smart buildings, transportations, and many more. But it is also gaining traction and attention from the research community. Despite all this, the main issue slowing down progress remains fragmentation, both in terms of communication protocols as well as exchanged data formats. Fragmentation is ultimately a problem that is inevitable because certain protocols and data formats are designed and optimized for different application domains as well as for different environments. For example, we have the LoRa protocol, which is optimized for long range, as its name suggests. We have also Bluetooth Low Energy, which is optimized for low energy or battery restrained or constrained devices. And then we have also binary data formats such as EXI and CBOR, which are the binary representations of JSON and XML respectively, and which are designed for bandwidth optimization. Now, on the application level, we have witnessed the emergence of, like Christopher said earlier, what came to be known as the Web of Things, which is the application layer that is put on top of the Internet of Things. So the objective of the Web of Things is to leverage the popularity of existing web technologies, such as using URIs in order to identify the things as in Web of Things. And then using protocols such as HTTP and MQTT and CoAP in order to allow communication on the application layer between these things. Many proposals have been made in order to describe these things on the Web of Things scheme of, well, on the level, Web of Things level. So we have proposals made by the World Wide Web Consortium, such as thing descriptions. And then we have also the SOSA SSN ontology, which stands for Semantic Sensor Network, and SOSA stands for Sensor Observation Sample and Actuator. Then we have also other proposals such as the SARIF ontology or Smart Appliances Reference Ontology, which was made by the European Telecommunications Standards Institute. And then we have smart device templates developed by one M2M, which is a grouping of international or continental standards development organizations. Some more observations which are made on the recent developments in the technologies in the web, and particularly the web, the semantic web, are the following. So we have seen the rise of a number of technologies, a stack of technologies that allows to perform certain operations which came to be known as lifting, lowering, and validation. So for lifting, we have example of technologies that allow to do lifting is RML, which allows transforming heterogeneous data formats into RDF. And then we have STTL for the opposite operation, which transforms RDF into various other data formats. And then we have technologies that do both, like Sparkle Generate, which is an extension of the Sparkle query language that does both lifting and lowering. And then finally, we have validation technologies such as Shackle and Shex, which allow to validate RDF graphs against what's known as a shape, which is well, a shape is actually just a document that allows the validation of RDF the same way JSON schema allows us to validate JSON documents. Also, we have seen development on the web services domain. We have seen the rise of lightweight RESTful APIs, which have completely replaced the old RPC architectural style, which was based on the SOAP and WSDL technology stack. And finally, the last observation here is the rise of what is known as linked RESTful services, which are services that are described using linked data and that's exchanged. So they, as input and output, they exchange also linked data. These observations have helped us to make a number of challenges, which I'm going to present here. So the first challenge is how to overcome the heterogeneity of both data formats and exchange protocols, the issue that I presented earlier, how to ensure interoperability without resorting to hard coding or hard wiring, meaning flexibility, how to facilitate the deployment of new equipment, meaning flexibility, and then allowing an easy in terms of time, costs, as well as expertise, and easy as well as incremental integration with existing systems. Another challenge is abstracting the protocols, the different protocols from between old and new devices, as well as we do the same things of abstraction of data formats. And then we have how to automate device interactions, such as how to allow devices to discover each other and select which devices they will interact with, how to perpetuate the autonomy of such automated devices, meaning limiting as much as possible the human intervention. And lastly, we have support of legacy devices already deployed and that use outdated technologies, how to allow these devices to exchange with existing devices. The advantage of combining the technologies of semantic web that we presented earlier with the REST architectural style materializes in a number of opportunities which we highlight here. So the first opportunity is the thing-oriented nature of the Web of Things and the Internet of Things aligns well with the resource-oriented nature of both RDF and the REST architectural style. The second opportunity is that lightweight RESTful APIs are ideal for exposing small devices, data, and interfaces or functionality, ensuring interoperability on the interface level. And then we have the semantic web technologies, which I introduced earlier, which help in enabling interoperability on the data level, and then linked data principles and practices, which help enabling interoperability on the semantic level. In summary, we have an ideal set of technologies to overcome the issues we highlighted earlier, but there are still there is still one big challenge in the way, which is how to integrate this set of technologies into a single, seamless, and flexible framework that overcomes the technical challenges I presented earlier. So in terms of proposals, we have made a number of proposals. The first one is implementing an intermediary generic middleware layer between devices, exchanging data and application, consuming and generating knowledge. So we expose thing capabilities and data as web APIs by following a plug-and-play approach, meaning each time we have a new device, we make its interface and then expose it. And also we describe the properties, actions, and events using standards such as the W3C's Web of Things thing description. And this way, the applications such as control applications, monitoring applications, or any other application can communicate with these web APIs by acting as web clients. So in summary, by doing this, we make things discoverable and composable, allowing the conception of more complex applications that exploit these interfaces and offer more added value. The second proposal here is relying on the technologies I presented earlier, the semantic web technologies, in order to overcome data heterogeneity between devices. So we use RDF as a lingua franca, so the same way English is used as a lingua franca around the world in order to overcome this heterogeneity. So we use lifting to lift sensor data, we use lowering to lower RDF data to control activators, and then we use validation to ensure RDF produced and consumed meets the needed structure required by different devices.
Mehdi, je suis désolé, but we're at 16:40. Can you wrap it up pretty soon?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
So this way, so we ensure that not only all devices can exchange the same data format, but also that sensor data can be transformed into knowledge that can be stored or used to generate additional value. So here I present how the abstraction of a web service in terms of RDF input and output can be achieved using lifting and lowering. And here I present an example of two heterogeneous services exchanging data using RDF as an intermediary without having to know each other's native formats. The third and last proposal we make is, which is not novel in itself, but we encourage the use of layered ontologies and semantic negotiation. So meaning we don't have to lift and lower everything or all the data that is exchanged, but only part of it, only what is necessary. An example that uses this concept is the SOSA assassin ontology, which is, so we have SOSA, which is the core of this, in this figure here. So it's a lightweight, self-contained core. And then we have assassin, which is an extension that imports SOSA and then introduces more advanced concepts. In summary, the proposals we made aim to facilitate extensibility, allow easy and incremental integration. They ensure flexibility, and they help overcome heterogeneity on the data level as well as the semantic level. Thank you for your attention. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to reply. And if not, here are some discussion starters to hopefully ignite a discussion. Thank you again.
That's great. Merci beaucoup, Mehdi. Thanks so much. So now we have to, unfortunately, we have to move on quickly now to Lambert Hugenhout at the UN Secretariat. Lambert, you are Chief of Data Analytics and Emerging Technologies. You advise the UN leadership on frontier technologies. You lead implementation teams. Your current focus includes artificial intelligence, data analytics, and knowledge management. This is a workshop now through 1725 CET. So this, we encourage people to participate, to ask questions, to make comments. And Lambert, you can get it started right now.
Sure, thanks, thanks, Chris. So I want to talk a little bit today about what my team at the Emerging Technologies Lab is doing at United Nations with regard to semantic, building a semantic layer. And I want to explain also why we're doing that, the benefits that we see of building that. It relates to getting our different departments within the UN to be able to access one another's information, to strengthen our IT systems, and to strengthen collaboration among staff. So I'm going to go through all of these things and put your questions in the chat, and I'll try to address them if I can multitask, and otherwise Chris will help me at the end, I think, to remind me of some of the questions. So can we go to the next slide, please? Or, oh, maybe I should share my slides, right?
That would be a good idea. Let's try that.
Yeah, okay.
Leo, can you coach Lambert if he doesn't get there? Yeah, Peter, he's got
okay.
it. Okay.
I think you can see my my slides now. So, as we all know, the world is not perfect. There's a lot of things wrong in the world, and that is what we spend our days trying to fix at the UN. And it's not easy because it's a lot that needs fixing, and it's not easy because it's very complex. All these issues are very complex. We do have a little bit of help. We have some structure. We have structures in what is the trouble in the world, what needs fixing in the world, and that takes the form of the SDGs. And we have some structures internally in our organization as well. We have all kinds of offices and departments, and we that helps us as well. That helps us in terms of organizing our thinking about these things, but it doesn't particularly help with the complexity because there's a lot of connections and overlap among the SDGs, and there's a lot of overlap in the work that we do in our various departments and offices as well. I think everybody has realized by now that the SDGs are very much linked. If you think about poverty, you probably quickly get to education, and you might also find linkages to gender equality. For example, if you want to get people out of poverty, knowledge and skills is probably a good idea because that way they get a job and that will alleviate their poverty. Of course, you need schools for that education, and that education might create knowledge and skills that also, if you make sure that women and girls are also have access to your education, that will lead to empowerment. So you already see how with like 30 seconds of thinking, you're connecting 3 SDGs. And the linkages are numerous and very complex. The same with our departments, our Economic Affairs Department and our, for example, the UN Environment Program, which is also part of the UN Secretariat, and our Economic Commission for Africa, ECA. They all have fields where they research the same things and their fields of interest overlap. And the collaboration between these departments, goes well in some instances, and in some instances it's separated, siloed. And if you look at the information that we use, it's the same story. The information sits in different silos. We get it from different repositories, but there's a lot of overlap between those different data sets or repositories that we use. So how to deal with that? Now, in this conference, we've seen a lot already about linked data, semantic web, knowledge graphs, and obviously that's something we'd like to use to help get more insight in these connections and break through these silos. Fortunately, we don't have to start from the start, from scratch. because there's a lot out there already, and many of you may know this. This is the LOD cloud, the linked open data cloud. Many data sets on all kinds of different topics. Sorry, I'm saying data sets. What I should say is linked data and taxonomies, and they're very useful if you want to get started. Having said that, none of it is useful out of the box. They're not turnkey solutions. So you need to use that to build your own solutions. And that's what we did. We used some of the existing taxonomies to start creating our own graph, our own taxonomy about various STD-related topics. One of the fields that we specifically focused on was humanitarian affairs. And what we want to do with that is to start creating specific applications. We want to automate some of the enrichment of these graphs with automated methods using NLP and machine learning in particular fields. And that is a bit of research that we've done in-house, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, to automatically start enriching those graphs. And then ultimately, in order to leverage that for particular applications, we built algorithms to use it. And to be a bit more specific, what I mean with algorithms is, for instance, an algorithm to determine similarity between topics, similarity between documents, the shortest path between topics. And we use that in very practical examples. For example, this project that we did for humanitarian affairs, they had a problem. The Office for Humanitarian Affairs have a large fund pooled funds with a lot of money that they need to allocate to humanitarian projects. And this is big scale. I think they govern about $1.5 billion, and they get hundreds of project proposals, each 75 pages. Now, the challenge is that the donors who gave all that money to the fund, they have specific priorities. So they've asked the Office for Humanitarian Affairs, select projects specifically that support women and girls, that target people with a disability, education in protracted crisis, another priority. And these priorities sometimes change over time. And there's sometimes ad hoc insights that the donors would like to have in how their money is being used. For example, now with COVID, that's one different kind of lens that the donors really wanted to have. So how to do that, how to read through hundreds of proposals, lengthy proposals, and match them with a changing set of priorities. And that's something that a lot of staff at the Office for Humanitarian Affairs do manually. And it's not always easy, because it may not talk about education, but it may say that we're going to establish a school. So it's not like you can go into MS Word and press Control F and search for education. You have to read through the whole thing, and you have to read between the lines. And they may not say we support women and girls, but it says, our program is especially relevant for the female population, or maybe, we are gender sensitive, or maybe it says something like that. So to get from specific words like disabled or women or education to broader concepts, and to sort of cast a wider net, and to be more accurate and precise in assessing whether a proposal or a report is relevant to a set of topics, that's where we used the knowledge graph that we built. And again, the natural language processing also plays a role there. So we're going to take this, we're already taking this further. I mentioned the automatic generation of knowledge graphs using natural language processing and machine learning. What I mean with that is we can't keep building knowledge graph by hand, node by node. add a note on schools, and then add a note on books, and add a note on I don't know, pencils, and anything that has to do with education. It would be impossible to do all of that by hand, or not impossible. It would take years. We do have hundreds, thousands, millions of documents within specific topic areas. So what we're building is this technology that can automatically read through these documents, analyze the sentences, and the relationships that are being expressed by these sentences. So if it says the school will be housed in a building, and you know, in that building we also make sure there's a ramp for people in wheelchairs to enter the school. There's a lot of information in there. You know that schools have something to do with building. Maybe you require a building for a school. And you know that these ramps have something to do with wheelchairs, and wheelchairs are connected to disability. So within that sentence of English or other languages, we a lot of the technology we build is language agnostic, so we can use it on different languages. But within that sentence, there's all that information, and as a human being, we read a sentence and we understand it, and we sort of within milliseconds, we can process that in our heads. We're building technology can do that automatically and extract these relationships out of the sentences. Now, what we want to achieve with all of this technology is a couple of things. First of all, it helps humans to get better insight. We may think that we have all these concepts in our head pretty well, but actually looking at what a computer has analyzed as connections between topics is sometimes very surprising, and we learn from it. We want to use this semantic layer that we're building, this knowledge graph, this as a layer that underpins all of our IT applications. Because imagine if you have better understanding of what is the connection between a school and a building, or between a school and a book. You can use that in many applications like search, chatbots, all of your machine learning applications. They all become smarter by using this layer of this semantic layer. And lastly, these concepts will make it easier for our UN staff to find areas of work that are connected to what they're doing. And it actually encourages human collaboration, because you discover projects that other people are doing that apparently are very much connected or supportive of what you're doing, or overlapping with what you're doing. And we're trying to think of ways of sort of taking that technological semantic layer back to the human realm and use it to make humans collaborate more successfully. And that collaboration doesn't only have to be within one organization. It can also be between organizations, between the UN, NGOs, EU organizations. And I think that's where there's a lot of potential for collaboration, both in creating these kind of semantic layers and benefiting from taxonomies that we all have developed, and also in using those insights to find opportunities for collaboration. So this ends my presentation, and I'm going to check with Chris if we have any questions in the chat.
I do, yes. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Lambert. We've got a question here. Do you plan to develop a UN data portal with semantic technologies and linked data? Can you hear me, Lambert?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, okay. And I see two questions in there. Yeah. Do we plan to launch a data portal? Yes, that's part of the data strategy that the Secretary General of our organization has launched last year and that we're busy implementing. We're organizing all our information internally, and as part of that project, we're also going to launch at some point, maybe not this year, but definitely by next year, a public open data portal. The second part of the question is, will that contain the semantic layer as well? Well, the semantic layer will definitely be used to underpin that portal and help sort of enrich the meta information to make that data portal more searchable. The data portal may also include some of the elements of the semantic layer, particularly taxonomies and linked data sets.
Okay. Got a question from Vladimir Alexiev. He's asking, do you use the Sustainable Development Goals interface ontology, SDGIO?
We're definitely aware of it, and we've looked at it. From what I've seen in the SDGIO, it was very specific in certain areas. Certain biological concepts were very much found out and very empty in many of the other topics areas. So there's very specific elements in there that I think are useful. But yeah, we were definitely aware of it. We can't hear you, Chris.
I think I did it the wrong way. There we go. Question from Martina Podskianova. How do you refine algorithms? Are there any simpler, less technical rules that you use?
It's a tricky question. How do we refine algorithms? It's always a combination of technical standards or assessment methods to see how we can improve these algorithms, and sort of the human feedback that we get of whether something is particularly useful. The development of these algorithms, our choice of what are we going to make an algorithm do, is it useful to know how many steps it takes to go from one concept to another? That depends on the use cases we get from our clients, people who are making use of our semantic technology. And in the case of the humanitarian application that I demonstrated, there was a definite need to calculate those parts, because to come with an assessment, a score, if you like, whether a proposal is relevant to a whole set of topics, you need to have a way to compute that. You need to establish a sort of scoring mechanism, and that formula is something we needed to create in order to build that application.
Okay, I might just add, Vladimir had to run, but he said we'd be glad to collaborate with you to elaborate SDGIO. Just to remind that Vladimir is co-founder and chief data architect of Surma.ai, the largest Bulgarian IT group. Have another question here. The EU Commission is promoting the use of the UN SDG taxonomy. Do you see any way to engage more with EU institutions?
Yes, and that was the point of my last slide. And to be honest, it's also a motivation for me to participate in this conference, to reach out to people in the EU and in other places to start collaboration. We're very much open to that. We're happy to share what we have in terms of knowledge and in terms of concrete data. And we're very eager to learn from others and see what you might have.
I guess in which sectors especially? I guess maybe in development, in environment, those two especially? Yeah,
I always find it hard to pinpoint a few, because the SDGs cover the entire realm of human life.
Yeah, that's true.
And obviously, climate change is something that's very urgent. recently with the pandemic that's been going on, health information is there's a lot of interest in that. We do a lot of work in humanitarian and in political or peace and security affairs as well. So those are areas that definitely interest us. We just set up a center in Hamburg for people-centered smart cities. So urban development information is also to our interest. But those are just a few areas, and I don't want to diminish our intention to cover other areas as well.
Okay, I have a question from, oh, wait a minute here, hang on a second. From Eric Antizana. Lambert, could you provide details on the size of the workforce that works with you, such as FTEs, consultants, experts, SMEs, partners?
Sure, yeah, and it's hard to say to put a quantitative measure on the collaboration that we get from all kinds of people, but the core team, the team that develops the knowledge graph technology is quite small. It's 3 people in the core team of the knowledge graph area. The broader area, thinking about data and data strategy and these kind of thing, is a team of maybe 20 people. And then there's the larger community within the UN Secretariat, and occasionally also beyond that, that helps on specific areas. And obviously for the application in humanitarian affairs, we worked a lot with people in the Office for Humanitarian Affairs. So those are the sort of inputs we get externally.
Okay, here another one. SDGs are a hot point overall. What next for UN efforts in reference data?
Well, I can speculate on some of the future directions we want to go, but not to give the impression that we're going to do that once the SDGs are solved, because I don't think, unfortunately, I don't think that will happen in my lifetime. So they will remain our guiding framework for many years to come, I think. More specifically, what we're planning to do is to create a broader and broader semantic layer around these SDGs, and to be supportive within our organization and externally as well at some point, to make that available publicly to others to use, and also to help implement specific applications on that, to make that semantic layer useful for various applications, be they sort of IT applications. I mentioned enterprise search, or last year we launched a chatbot, a UN chatbot, and for both of those applications, the semantic layer will really make them smarter and better, but also specific substantive applications like the one I showed for humanitarian affairs.
Okay. Next question, is there an integration of semantic level between different UN services? I think you kind of referred to that, didn't you, or not?
Yeah, in one of my earlier slides, I showed that obviously there's a lot of overlap in what we're doing, and we're not always aware of that. Sometimes it's the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing within our organization, and I think that happens to all organizations. And I think one of the potential uses I see of this semantic layer is to highlight the overlap between the work that we do in different areas, and to make the potential for collaboration more explicit to people.
Okay, here another question. If this wasn't answered from Eric, could you provide, no, we got that. Sorry about that. I'm sort of scrolling through the different questions here. Could you share some aspects related with your future plans for developing the semantic infrastructure you are using?
Yeah, the main thing we're working on right now is this technology to automatically build graphs from reading textual documents. And that, to us, in a sense, it is a holy grail. It's one of the holy grails, and we're making good progress towards that. We have a prototype that functions, and we now need to scale that up so that we can really dump in 1,000 documents on a particular topic and see that knowledge graph being automatically built. So that is our main focus right now.
Okay. At this point, I don't have any questions coming in. That they've been coming in quite regularly, but I guess maybe to ask you, I mean, how much? I mean, you're integrating the communication within the UN, but what about with respect with different governments? How much of an exchange is there in data?
That is sort of there's two different aspects to that. Data exchange is always a good thing. And regardless of whether that's linked data or whether you're talking about semantic data. And there is a lot of good initiatives happening in terms of data exchange. I think a lot of organizations, including the EU, have open data portals. I think more can be done in terms of making that data interoperable. And that is work that can be done in sort of standards, metadata standards, and taxonomies. And that's where I think knowledge graphs can be helpful. Because even if you use different labels for your data, if your columns in your spreadsheets are named differently, whatever, if you have some semantic metadata on that, about what it means and how it connects, that makes it much easier to connect data from one data set to another data set. So I think first people need to be willing to share data. And then the next challenge becomes how to make that data interoperable. And that's where linked data, semantic web, and knowledge graphs come in.
Is there anything to learn from how the EU is doing it, or vice versa? You know, the EU with 24 official languages from 27 countries, and you're dealing with what, 190 some odd countries with how many dozens of languages? How do you make that work data-wise?
Hundreds of languages in the world. Yeah, we have 6 official languages at the UN, so that's actually fewer than the EU.
Right.
But no, I think the EU is making great strides, leading the way in a sense in many aspects in terms of vocabularies that are being created. The AGROVOC was demonstrated earlier today, and in terms of open data. So I think that's great stuff, and we can all learn from each other.
Yeah. Next question. EU Commission has EURLEX for publishing legal content. Any similar in size at the UN level for legal content?
No, not specifically for legal content. We do have a thesaurus that we use within the UN, and that is publicly accessible to, I think you have to go through the Dag Hammarskjöld library at the UN Secretariat. And that has parallel, it's a parallel thesaurus in the 6 languages of all kinds of terminology that we use within the UN, but nothing specifically for legal.
Okay, all right. And there's still quite a lot of us who are connected. If anybody would like to raise their hand and make some kind of a comment, that would be great. As this is a workshop, so if somebody would like to join in, I know that some of you made your presentations and had very little time to do so. So maybe there's something to add to what you had said in your presentation, either Madi or Denis or anyone else. We have a little time here. We have about 10 minutes. Caterina, possibly. Would anyone like to jump in? Hang on a second here. Wait a minute.
Maybe if nobody has a comment, I might mention that we're organizing a workshop on knowledge graphs for social good at the Knowledge Graph Conference that normally takes place in New York, but now it's virtual. And people can attend that without cost. I'll share the link at some point on our website at the UN and through my LinkedIn contacts. So
you can also elaborate. You can just share that on the chat too if you want for those.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the registration link. I can let me see if I can share a page. Yeah, I can probably share a link on the chat here.
All right, and in the meantime, I have another question here. Could you elaborate on the challenging aspects of implementing the solution described in the presentation? Could you elaborate on the challenging aspects of carrying out this solution described in your presentation?
Right. Obviously, establishing the taxonomy was a challenge because even though there's a lot of stuff around, none of it is exactly what you need, and getting it into the right format is a challenge. The other challenge that I would like to highlight is the end user interfaces, because ultimately the end users that have a problem, in this case, they want insight in how well the projects align with priorities. They don't care about all your talk about linked data, about your knowledge graph, about your machine learning algorithms or whatever. They just need to do their job. And we created a number of interfaces, one for the staff of the Humanitarian Affairs Office that allows them to take one document and to see how that aligns to the different priorities. And you can imagine a sort of a radar graph, a spider graph, where it has you know, a certain it has a certain level of alignment with this dimension and with that dimension. We created another interface for the donors where they can see, take whatever, these $200 million, how were they allocated? And if you take all these projects together, how much of it contributed to priority number one, to the women and girls, and how much to disability, and how much to education? And then you find out that, you know, the women and girls, there's a lot of projects that focus on that. We're pretty good on that, but the disability, that's really underserved. So then you get those kind of insights. We had another interface for the management of humanitarian affairs. They're interested to see when priorities change over time. How well does the response, how well does the allocation of money to projects follow that shift in priorities?
Right.
And so there's different users and they all need different insights. So
by measuring all of those factors, you're able to better focus what resources you have on in the right direction.
That's the ultimate goal, is to make sure the money goes where it is most needed, and also to you know, prove to donors, to give donors the confidence that when they give a donation to this fund, that the money is going to be well spent. You need to build that trust, and that's where these kind of insights play a big role.
Here's a question from Martina. What's your process for updating the taxonomy?
I think the automated technology that we're building is helpful, not only in building new knowledge graphs, but also in updating them. For instance, you know, society changes, or the world changes all the time. If you would have built a knowledge graph of how concepts are related around 1900, 120 years ago, it would have looked very different than the one we have now. And going forward, things are going to change as well. Things that were not particularly connected are going to be more connected, and other things or new concepts may come up. So by constantly monitoring news feeds, proposals, documents, outcomes of General Assembly deliberations or resolutions, we can feed that in, and we can update our knowledge graph to reflect the trends in this semantic layer.
What do you do about hacking? Do you have safeguards for that to protect your data?
Oh, well,
obviously you do, but I mean, how? I guess you don't want to give any secrets away, but
it's not really my area. We do have a IT security division, of course,
okay.
And I think you bring up an interesting topic. Obviously, when your system is hacked, people could either destroy your taxonomy or change it with malicious intent or whatever. But with the kind of algorithms that we use, the machine learning algorithms, etc., there's the potential for more subtle manipulation. There's been, papers written on theoretical papers on how you could feed machine learning algorithms with some misinformation in a very targeted way, so that they start taking the wrong conclusions, and you could over time you could sort of misalign that taxonomy. And I haven't really thought about that. They're interesting concepts, but
they're concepts, but they haven't happened yet, as far as you know.
No.
Okay.
We're not. We don't see it as an immediate risk right now.
Okay. All right. I've got actually a question for Madi. Is he still? Let's see.
I'm still here. Yes.
You're still here, Madi. Yes, you are. There you are. Here's a question for you. Can you recommend some frameworks for engaging with semantic technologies at device level?
Well, right now we are developing such a framework.
Can you put your picture on?
Yes, of course.
That would be great. There
it's
there you are. Okay.
Sorry, it's not used to it. So yeah, so we are working on one right now. We have looked a little bit in the literature. We haven't found anything that's doing exactly what we are trying to do. So in terms of frameworks, I don't have anything in my head right now, but if you are really interested in this ecosystem of developing semantic descriptions for devices, I will suggest you take a look on the Web of Things W3C working group. They have done a lot of work on it, and there's a lot. There's a number of recommendations, such as the thing description. There's architecture, Web of Things architecture. There's a number of W3C recommendations that came in the last few years. So so yeah, there's those, and there's also some work being done by the European Telecommunications Standards institutes, like the SAREF ontology. There's a lot of work being done around that as well. So there's that, and there's also some work being done by One M2M and Smart M2M, also in order to describe devices. I cited in my presentation smart device templates. And right now, also, there's some efforts in order to align these different description solutions. One of them is aligning SDT with the SARF core, which is something I'm involved in right now. But yeah, I think I gave you some leads in order to.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, thanks for those suggestions.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very good. Are there any other comments from anyone? Any other questions? I'm going to keep an eye. Oh, from Eric. Here we go. What is the vision of UN in terms of adopting more and more semantic web technologies? I guess there are still plenty of databases implemented in traditional platforms like RDBMS.
Yeah, I like that you describe it as does the UN have a vision? I wish I could say yes to that, but as you already expected, there's a lot of regular databases and linked data and knowledge graphs is still very much a new thing. One of the objectives that we have within the UN is to spread that awareness and a bit of education. I'm putting in the chat here a link to a blog which is also publicly accessible that I recently wrote within the UN to also highlight the importance of linked data and how it can help us. So that's one of our tasks is advocacy.
Okay. Well, we're coming right up on 17:25, which is when we had to wrap this up. Thank you so much, Lambert. I appreciate it. And to all the speakers today, if there are any further comments, what we're doing now is we'd like people to go on to Slido to give your suggestions looking forward, what should be done, your recommendations for the future. Go to slido.com. And go into the, if you haven't yet, go to hashtag endorse 2021. That's the event. And at that platform, you can put in your recommendations. I've got one final question for you, Lambert, if I may ask you, as we are going onto Slido to put our recommendations. Can you hear me, Lambert?
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry.
I've got a final question. I mean, yeah, how much do people who work in data like yourself and all the people we've been talking, there are roughly 100 people, 100 speakers over these 4 days of Endorse 2021 from all over the place, from all over the world. How much does politics get in the way? Or as I have seen as a journalist, that scientists communicate with each other regardless of the politics. Is there that spirit among data type people as well?
If you talk about politics in terms of international politics, I don't think it's that bad. But politics in the sense of territorialism, owning data, people still see their ownership of data as protecting their raison d'etre of their
power.
unit. Knowledge is power. And even within our organization, within the UN Secretariat, it's we have to break through that. And it's sometimes it takes a little bit of convincing to tell people that they need to open up all this information, and it's going to be okay.
Like we heard earlier a couple of days ago, the aspect of buy-in, get people to accept and to buy into a new way of exchanging data it can be a challenge, right?
Right. Yeah. On the other hand,
you got to show the benefits. You got to show the carrot.
Right. Yeah. When it comes to the technology, and you mentioned scientists, and I look, for example, at the AI technology, and I'm astonished at how much openness there is within that community, even within sort of the sort of semi-academic people that work for commercial companies for Facebook or Google or whatever, they come up with new inventions, and within months, even weeks, they share it with the rest of the community. So there's a lot of openness there.
Yeah, so you do see a spirit there that needs to be cultivated.
On the technology, yes. On the data, less so.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, I will leave everyone to fill in the survey for Slido. We thank everyone for participating, the speakers and those sending in your questions. Tomorrow is the final day, day 4 of ENDORSE 2021. The theme then will be linking data spaces, kind of like we've been talking about just now, including talks with domain experts of various sectors, health, environment, public administration. So lots more to talk about tomorrow, and be sure to be as active as you can. If you missed anything, or if you'd like to see it again, you can see the recordings of these different sessions across the gamut of ENDORSE 2021. And thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
Thanks so much, Chris.